What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Monday show, gang. Hope your week is off to a good start. A little late in the afternoon today, but no NBA to deal with. Nice night off before the playoffs get started, the play-in games get started. So we just got to tackle some NHL games after this is over, but we were able to get started a little later in the day. Got a solid 8-game slate up tonight. Looks really, really sharp. Nice pitching slate, really deep pitching, some cheaper options that we can play around with, some mispriced guys like Framber Valdez on DraftKings up near the top of the board there. Lot to work with, lot to talk about. King of all trades, what's going on? Good to see you. Welcome to everybody who's here. Handful of people here to start out the show. Sorry to keep you guys waiting a couple extra minutes there. Had to wrangle the cat, refill the coffee, you know how it goes. But hopefully everybody's Monday's going well. Hopefully the weekends were good. Hopefully none of you played that NBA slate yesterday. Woof. I had to cover it, of course, for the site, so I was on top of it. Fortunately, they split it into two. There was a 1 and a 3, so I only covered the 3 for the main slate. But man, what a mess. Going to be nice to get back to like sane NBA projections and just like a nice, we know who's going to play. We know who's available. We're not going to mess around with time. We know they're going to get aggressive minutes. Ricky, to be honest, I didn't even pay attention to basketball yesterday after I just projected the slate, so I didn't even see that there was a double OT thriller, to be quite honest. Literally did not pay attention to basketball at all yesterday. Put the projections up. The numbers work. That's basically all I did, but that sounds like a fun one, I guess. But yeah, just with who was playing for the most part yesterday, the list like that long on the screen of guys who were just out. There were like, you could have made multiple all NBA teams of guys who were just out yesterday. Greg Porter Jr. versus Keaton Wallace showed out. Yeah. Awesome. That's what I want to be there for. Good to see you, Ricky. Good to see you, Monty. Good stuff. Yeah, exactly. Creative players. At least those guys are like more reasonable. Like those are, you pick from like the top of the heap there. You could have got way deeper than that for stupid nonsense creative player names. Speaking of, Easton Lucas down toward the bottom of the board going up against the Braves at, to me, an inexplicable $9,000 price tag on FanDuel. That just stands out as a little weird. But anyway, let's get into this slate. I just updated the Vegas board. We got a handful of people here, a little bit of a quorum to get started, and I'm sure more will trickle in. KC at the Yanks. It's Carlos Carrasco on the mound for the Yankees. I'm not really a big fan of that. I think Vegas kind of has this upside down. I'm fine with giving the Yanks 4.88 runs against Seth Lugo, who's going for the Royals, but I feel like the Royals are a little bit underappreciated here on the Vegas board. 4.22, it's not nothing. There's plenty to work with there, but the weather's warming up. It's a 65-degree day here in the New York area, so the ball should be flying in Yankee Stadium again. I just see upside for days for that Kansas City team against this pitcher. The Yankees bullpen's been a little bit taxed. I don't know about that. So kind of, and the model's agreeing with it. So we're going to take a look at the Royals. We'll obviously look at some Yankees. I do think Lugo is usable though. There's enough talent there. And he's also enough of a get by spot hitter of a pitcher, Yeah, that makes sense, of a pitcher who I think could get through this Yankees lineup effectively. At least a couple times over, find a few Ks along the way. He's not nearly the top priority pitcher, but I think he's going to be usable. We'll take a look at him on the board. Red Sox at the Rays, an 8.5 run total there. Pretty healthy run totals on both sides of that one. That's Tanner Houck, who we do like for keeping the ball in the yard, and then it's Shane Baz on the other side, who we like for some strikeout upside. He's been good to start the season, although he walked 4 in his second start. He's basically been stretched out. He went 7 in that game, faced 28 hitters. So there's a lot to like on the mound there. But both of those teams are good offensively. Both of them are drawing pretty decent fantasy projections. That park is going to play up like crazy for offense all season long. We've already seen it start on warmer days down there. Meant to pull up the weather. Why is this? What? Since when does it give you these search results on the right? That was weird. Yeah, nothing on the board there. I just wanted to check what the temperature's like right now. 82 degrees, 81 degrees, 79, dropping into like the mid 70s at game time, but warming up down in Tampa Bay. So something to keep an eye on there. The other day when it was in the 80s, we saw that game with the Angels where they hit like 14 home runs. So something to pay attention to. The Braves and the Blue Jays, a 9-run game there. Another solid looking spot for offense. 4.61 has the Braves as the third highest implied total on the board. And then 4.49 implied is the fourth highest for Toronto. So definitely considering some bats from two teams that are at least good for DFS. The top heavy Blue Jays is kind of problematic though. We always just land on that same group of, established hitters up toward the top, and then it dwindles. Braves a much deeper lineup to work with. The Mets and the Twins. I'm kind of intrigued by the Clay Holmes spot for the going for the Mets. 4.13 implied total on the Twins side of things. Doesn't exactly draw the eye there, but I think Holmes is going to continue to produce upside starts going forward, and I like the option against the Twins team with plenty of strikeouts there. The Mets are showing some offense despite just a 3.95 implied total on the board in that one. They're going to be going up against Joe Ryan, who is very good. Definitely think Ryan can find some strikeouts on that side. The Vegas total is encouraging for sure. He gave up 4 in his second start, but he was clean on in the most recent one, which is against Kansas City. He also went 7 innings, which is nice to see. So I like basically that game for a 4-corner spot, I think. Maybe we leave off the Twins offense a little bit and it's 3 corners. We'll get there. Third school going for the Tigers, going up against the Brewers. 4.16 implied total on the Tigers side of that one. They're going up against Tyler Alexander. And then Scooble's got the Brewers checked down to just 3.42 implied runs. Really like the upside for Tarek Skubal as the top projected pitcher of the day. I think he finds his form, continues to find his form. He was very, very good over 6 against the Yankees the other day. Looked like vintage Skubal. And I think we just continue to get that basically the rest of the season. 3.51 implied runs, 3.56 implied runs between the Astros and the Cardinals. This is an interesting pitching duel between Framber Valdez and Sonny Gray, both of whom I think we can use. Like that Astros offense a lot more than I like the Cardinals offense. So if we're drawing bats gun to our head style, I would lean toward the Astros. But I think we're just mostly focused on pitching in that game. Those are both very, very good pitchers. Cubbies at the Padres. Cubs are facing Dylan Cease. The Padres are facing Jamison Taillon. So we like the Padres bats better. So does Vegas. 4.10 implied total there versus the 3.5 that the Cubs are drawing. We've seen the Cubs break some slates though, but Dylan Cease very, very good. Very high strikeout under normal circumstances. He did kind of melt down against the Athletics in his last one when we were looking at him. 9 earned runs given up, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. If you were here that day, we also talked about grabbing some Athletics bats that day, but that is not your typical Dylan Cease start. I like him to get back on the horse here, but it does kind of, at least make you wonder, given the Cubs skill set as far as getting to first base, hitting for a little bit of power, all the speed. There are multiple ways to create runs. And Vegas has it at 7.5 with the Cubbies down at 3.5 runs. So it's kind of all over the map in that one. I do think Dylan Cease is very usable. My hope is we get him at low ownership because of how that Cubs team's been hitting. And then the end of the slate, the Rockies at the Dodgers. It's Dustin May on the bump for the Dodgers. A very interesting pitcher. He did go 6 in his second start of the year. He gave up a couple earned runs, only struck out 1, but I think we've got way more upside facing this week. Rockies team. We've talked about the Rockies bats. We will draw shares of the Rockies bats here and there, but given what Dustin May does on the mound or what he's capable of doing on the mound, I really don't like it. Given that they're at a 3.02 implied total against him, really doesn't suggest much. 5.61 implied total on the other side for the Dodgers going up against Antonio Senzatella, at least for a little while. Dodgers monsters at the top of the board. Made Max Muncy from Original Recipe of Max Muncy the home run pick of the day, just because they were showing so much that I kind of had to go to somebody from the Dodgers. But he's kind of down lineup. He's kind of getting disrespected in ownership projections, at least the ones I saw. So I thought he was interesting. Love Max Muncy. As mentioned, Tarek Skubal, top of the pitching board. Full price on both sides, but looking excellent. I see no reason to not want to have a bunch of Skubal. I think he is slightly lower projected, at least RG. I saw I had him a little bit lower than this, but I think everybody should be kind of in this territory. If you see anybody skimping on him, definitely I would consider how people who draw their projections from that site are going to be building lineups. There's always impact to be taken into consideration across if you're looking at information from multiple sites. How does that, what is the audience size for that site? What conclusions are they going to draw from the information they're being presented, and how are lineups going to be shaped publicly because of that? You can always kind of dig in on those things given a little bit of time. So I think if Scooble's a little bit lower in some places, maybe it has an impact against that very high price. I absolutely love him and would only take more. I would never undercut the Scooble spot, and it's a perfectly gettable situation against Milwaukee. Frommer is excellent, and as mentioned, 8,800 is a dynamite price for him. There's strikeout upside there. He's got the excellent ability to pitch 7 very clean innings and give you a nice score just by virtue of that. It's a decent enough matchup. Ryan, like I said, like him, but the Mets are showing up on the other side of that one. Dylan Cease is super interesting at just 84 on FanDuel. That price is wrong. 9,800 is correct on DraftKings. You can absolutely use him there, but again, high danger spot against a good Cubs offense. Dustin May at just 87 on FanDuel is also mispriced for that matchup against Colorado. DraftKings got it right at 93. I don't love this spot. I'm just not the biggest Shane Baz fan in general. And against a good Red Sox offense in that park, where I do think he's very usable, though, that 84 on DraftKings obviously plays a lot different than 10-1 on FanDuel. It is also a spot where we could see Baz go out there and strike out 8 and have a very good score. So I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying it's not usable. We'll look at him in a minute. But that's one of the more concerning spots, especially on FanDuel for the big ask as far as the salary goes. Really like this spot, but you're paying full price or probably a little bit of a high tax there on Clay Holmes on FanDuel. Love it on DraftKings. You can absolutely go 75 there and 88 there and really cheapen up your pitching. You could go 75, 84 with those two. You could go 75, 85 there, as well as obviously combining the various $8,000 guys. It's a deep pitching slate. You can easily see a day where even against the good Astros team, Sonny Gray leads the pitching slate from down there for those prices. Clay Holmes a little bit less likely to absolutely lead the slate, but in a points per dollar sense, he's very competitive with the top of the board. So it's a really deep slate, and I encourage you to make different combinations, and you can dabble with Tanner Houck in that sense. Same thing with Seth Lugo. I wouldn't necessarily go down to Jameson Taillon against the low strikeout Padres team that's showing a lot of upside against him. Grant Holmes, Toronto's showing up, but I do think there's quality there. So I think if you're going super cheap, if you're going down to the bargain bin, 65 for Grant Holmes against Toronto is probably your spot. I like it better than Tyler Alexander against Detroit. I like it better than Carrasco. Easton Lucas, Sensatella, I think, further off the board and obviously differently priced. But this goes at least him and all of those guys deep, and you can put together a lot of really interesting price combinations there. And you've got a lot of cheap options on FanDuel, too. I mean, Houck is usable at 76. Lugo, certainly usable at 79. I just prefer to get some of those. Like, if I can get this range of guys in the 8s, I think I probably go there a little bit more and just eat chalk. But these guys are at least interesting, not Taillon. Let's get into a little bit here. 37 people out there hanging out. Love it. Good to see everybody. Hit the like button as we get started. Subscribe to the channel as we get started. Notifications, etc., etc. is up to you. Jump into the Discord. Let me drop a link in Discord. Discord's always free. So you can just hop in there and hang out with everybody. You pick up whatever we're talking about. People ask questions. I'll answer them. A lot of times I'll drop stuff in there as far as what's going on, what to expect with shows and so on. And it's just a fun crowd in there. And this link is such a pain in the ass. I figured it out. It doesn't let me Control-C, Control-V it. It has to be a right click, which is so annoying. But there's the link to Discord. Check out the website as well, rotoscouts.com. If you're new here, everything is under $1 a day. And I mean, everything gets you into baseball projections. You get the projections, you get the home run model, my specific home run picks each day, top stacks, all those different things. You get NBA on top of that all the way through the playoffs, all the regular season, every main slate. Same thing with NHL, every main slate all the way through the playoffs. All in under $1 a day, no per sport fees, no nothing. Check it out, rotoscouts.com. Royals, Yankees. Again, Seth Lugo's usable. So far over his first 2 starts, he hasn't been great. It's mostly just showing the flaws that are under the covers for Seth Lugo at all times. 3.24 ERA, but a 4.37 xFIP. He's walked too many at 10.6%. Low strikeout rate at just 18.2. 6.8% swinging strike rate is really concerning. If you're going to put that much bat on ball to this Yankee squad that just specializes in thunderous contact, it's going to get problematic in Yankee Stadium on a warming day. So I totally buy the Yankees pushing nearly a 5-run total. But Lugo is for 76, for 79 on the board. Last season, he had a very good year. 3.0 ERA with a 3.83 xFIP, but again, showing a little bit less quality in the true numbers, but was excellent at keeping guys off base. Got by despite the low swinging strike rate at just 9.5% because he didn't really walk anybody, didn't give up too many opportunities, a 1.09 whip, 21.7% Ks. He could find his way to a 5-6 strikeout game against a fairly free swinging Yankees lineup. There's no reason to expect otherwise. 25.6% strikeout rate so far for this Yankees team. So call it somewhere in the middle of a 1-4, 1-5 type of collision. I like Lugo to find a couple there as long as he's pitching clean, gets through 6 innings. But the Yanks can obviously do their damage. They can exploit if he's lacking a little bit of command out of the gate this season, and that walk rate being essentially double what it was last year. It's only 3 starts, 16 2/3. But if he struggles with that a little bit, these Yankees will definitely draw their walks against. They're very good at it, especially the more veteran hitters. So there is definitely danger here for Seth Lugo, but the price is right to throw at least a few darts around him against this team. Carrasco against the Royals, again, I'm really not seeing it. He's made 3 appearances, 2 starts. He's given up runs, multiple runs in every appearance. Last time out, 4 1/3 against Detroit, 4 earned, 3 home runs allowed, 3 strikeouts. That's at Detroit. His best outing was against the Diamondbacks. He went 5 1/3. He gave up 3 earned runs, struck out 5, walked 2. That was in his first start of the season. So the depth is kind of there, but I wouldn't expect Boone to leave him out for anything more than like 5 1/3. Like the number of times he actually finishes a 6th inning, pretty few and far between. The quality's really not there. You can see where Stuff Plus is at. We're 16 and change, 15 and change points below average by Stuff Plus. The ERA you can ignore, but the xFIP is already over 4. We're putting so many guys on base with a 1.63 whip. That's via BABIP. He hasn't really walked anybody. He's not striking anybody out. He's not inducing swinging strikes. He's not throwing strikes. Small sample numbers, sure. But we're talking about a guy who over 103 2/3 last year was at 19.9 as far as a strikeout rate. A 5.64 ERA was 13 points below average via Stuff Plus. Gave up plenty of contact. I just don't see it. I mean, Carlos Carrasco is here because guys are hurt, not because he's good. So for 6,000, if you want to throw a dart or two at the Royals, be my guest, but it's really not for me. I think there's better options there, and I kind of like these Royals bats. This 23% strikeout rate, I don't really buy. I think it's going to be more like 2021 when it's all said and done. A little bit of small sample in there for some of these guys. There are very good low strikeout hitters in this lineup. Even an erratic guy like Michael Garcia at the top of the lineup, or at least the top of the projected, he was up there the other day. We've talked about him a ton already early this season, and we've talked about his role all last season, underperforming for on base in the leadoff role while stealing bases and just being miscast up there. Jonathan India got hurt, so Garcia's filling in up at the top of the lineup. We've talked about India's quality of getting on base. Right now, over 53 plate appearances, though, Garcia's giving you a 321 on base, a 361 xWOB, but more importantly, 200 ISO. He's hit 2 home runs, making very solid contact at a 58.5% hard hit rate. He's doubled his barrel rate from 3.7 to 7.3. Remember, I think the first show of the year, I said, this kid, if the power actually comes around, and I believe it's in there, look out, because he's already capable of stealing bases. He's already a high contact hitter because he doesn't strike out. He doesn't really draw walks. So we're just talking about frequency of bat on ball. And if the quality of that frequent bat on ball has gone up, I'm really interested. 43.28, great price. Going up against a pitcher like Carrasco, you can see Garcia get on base a couple times, swipe a bag, score a few runs. Even if he doesn't come away with even one extra base hit, he could still put up a good score. Supported by excellent bats behind him. Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Sal Perez. This is an ideal team to stack. You get good power through the middle here, but you also get excellent bat on ball skills, low strikeout, high quality plate appearances out of Bobby Witt, out of Vinny Pasquantino. Just look at these low strikeout rates. This first inning is going to be brutal on Carlos Carrasco. All 3 of these guys might get on base. You might have a 2-0 Kansas City lead by the time Sal comes up. And then Sal hits one over the wall, and they're off and running. 9.38 in the home run model for Sal. He's number 2 on the team behind the 11.43 Bobby Witt over the home run mark. He's got 1 on the board this season. He's stolen 5 bags. The numbers look terrific already. 305, 391, 458, a 419 xWOBO, 137 WRC+. Witt's a superstar. You just always plug him in. You can absolutely use him as a one-off in Yankee Stadium. Love it. Vinny, Michael Massey, and MJ Melendez. More to the point, Vinny and MJ Melendez with their power upside, taking pokes at the right field porch in Yankee Stadium against this pitcher. Really, really interested in that. Vinny's barreling the ball 8.3% of the time. It's up a little bit. The hard hits are down in the small sample. He'll come around. 218, 290, 400 is not Vinny Pasquantino. He has hit 2 home runs, which is encouraging for the power upside. Sal's got a pair of home runs on the board, most notably 15.9% barrels, 45.5 on the hard hit rate in the small sample. Love them. 4,400 with catcher eligibility on DraftKings. That's where you want them. First base, you get the positional conflict is not ideal. So catcher is key for Sal Perez. That's exactly where I would put him if I'm playing him on DK. And really, the number of times I use him at first base, even in a rotation of Royal stacks, few and far between, because you're not coming up with a better catcher from a lot of lineups, and you do have plenty of alternative / similar first base options. So I think I would lean toward Sal just kind of constantly at catcher. You could even set it that way in a lot of optimizers. I wouldn't, but you could. Bottom of the lineup is less interesting. Michael Massey's a good bat on ball hitter with a little bit of pop from the left side. Hasn't done much in 58 plate appearances. Kevin Biggio not really doing much to earn a spot in this lineup right now. 27 pretty empty plate appearances after a pretty empty few seasons. Hunter Renfroe, a mix and match piece with a little bit of righty pop. Another guy, just a lazy fly ball the other way from Renfroe could easily get out in Yankee Stadium. And then MJ, premium contact for sure. Last couple of years, 8.3, 45% barrels and hard hits, 11.4 and 49% the year before. Just needs to wrangle the talent and become a little bit more consistent. So far, hasn't done it at all this season. So you're just kind of buying on faith with MJ right now. 44 really empty plate appearances, 0.7077, 182, 103, a 187 xWOBA, negative 13 WRC plus. It hasn't been pretty. Might not even be in the lineup. We'll see. Kyle Isbell, mix and match guy toward the bottom. Steven Young at 2. What's going on, buddy? No, Snyder's last names. Love it. No Bellinger in the lineup for the Yanks. All right, I'll grab their confirmed. Ricky Lee calling for the Ben Rice double dong tonight. Ooh, all right. I mean, look, you can see the upside, obviously. He's mashing the ball right now. All right, Labs is on top of it, too. We got a handful of these in. Good. So perfectly timed. Flipping over to the Yanks lineup. There we go. Austin Wells in the 3 spot. That's a good spot to drop Wells. I like that. So going up against Lugo, who allowing plenty of contact. There's always going to be contact allowed by Lugo. He's typically pretty decent at keeping the ball in the yard. That's the one thing. 1.91% home run rate last year, 8% barrels, medium fly ball trajectory. You're not targeting your 39% hard hits, 88.5 miles an hour of exit velo. Those were more problematic the year before. It resulted in just a 3.15% home run rate, but we were actually up on barrels, up on hard hits, up on the exit velo. This could easily have been over a 4% home run rate, which is where our warning light starts to flash a little bit. So it's not an utterly elite, Framber Valdez, keep the ball down all the time type home run limiter here. But he has been good at it the last couple of seasons. Again, Yankee Stadium, warm weather, bunch of lefties in the lineup. Everything favors some Yankee power here. 12.44 in the home run model for Aaron Judge to lead the team. Notably, nobody else over the magic number in the home run model, though. That respects Lugo's numbers over the last couple of seasons a little bit. But 6.98, not nothing for Ben Rice, who's got a 27.3% barrel rate so far, a 66.7% hard hit rate. He is out Aaron Judge right now in those tiny sample numbers. I promise that's not going to hold. 4 home runs on the board, 2 steals, a 411 on base, a 486 xWOBA, 199 WRC plus. He's been absolutely fantastic. Still only costs $3,900 is a bargain at first base. FanDuel's got the price on the rise, $3,300. Catcher and first base eligibility meaning the same thing over there. 64.47 for Judgy. Just hold your nose and pay it because everybody else in the lineup is at least affordable to very cheap, especially not really both sites, but FanDuel didn't even price Jazz up. At least DK still has Jazz at 5,500. FanDuel's got him at 32. That's easily affordable at second base. It's appealing. You do get jammed up around multiple guys that you might want to grab for the corner for the catcher first base util thing on FanDuel. You have 2 first basemen in the lineup on DraftKings, but you do have the very effective catcher bat in Austin Wells. So a little bit of back and forth as far as do you want Ben Rice? Do you want Paul Goldschmidt? Either one of those options is appealing and should be in multiple Yankee stacks as you're building out a bunch of Yankee stacks. They do look good here. Goldie off to a good start at 357, 403, 482, a 432 xWOBA. He's hitting the ball pretty hard, 41.3% hard hits. A few barrels in there to boot. Looking like the old Paul Goldschmidt so far this season, and he was doing that through the end of last year. So encouraging signs from the old man. I like it. Austin Wells, the young kid, 47.1% hard hits. It's kind of all he needs to do. 2 home runs. He lost one the other day in the rain that would have been out of Yankee Stadium most other days. He mashed the ball. Big fly ball trajectory. If you're watching it, bounced. Michael K called it gone. Bounced right off the very top of the wall, still on the padding. So it went as an automatic double, I think. But he lost a home run there. The kid does have very real power. Good ability to draw walks as well. 11.4% last year, 8% so far this year. Jazz is the one that might get low owned. He's sitting at 169, 246, 458 after a pretty prolonged slump over his last 20 some odd plate appearances. Jazz is very much on record as, I hate the cold weather. I cannot play in cold weather. I'm from the Bahamas. Please get me out of here. And it was very cold in all of their games over the last couple of weeks, or the last week and change. So I kind of am giving Jazz a pass on that, and I'm very interested in that left-handed power. 6.43 is number 3 on the Yankees in the home run model behind Judge and Ben Rice today. 5 on the board. I like him to come roaring back to life with the warming of the weather. Obviously, there's some give and take in there, and that's just kind of made up. But we've got a good excuse for Jazzy's underperforming the last couple of days, and the numbers are still there outside of his batting average and on base, and frankly, who cares? Anthony Volpe, Jason Dominguez, a couple of kids down the bottom of the lineup. Volpe's off to a good start with his torpedo bat. 4 home runs on the board, a 283 ISO, at 350 on base, or at 350 xWOBA rather. You like to see him squaring the ball up more. 16.2% barrels and 45.9% hard hits is an excellent and probably unsustainable uptick year over year. He's a high strikeout player, but if he can draw his walks this year, which he hasn't done as much the last 2 years, push that on base up a little bit, make yourself more valuable, make the stolen bases more frequent, more valuable. I like the option at 5,000 and 3,400. I think he's very playable against this pitcher because Lugo will allow some contact. It's not a super high strikeout pitcher, which can be a problem with Volpe. Dominguez for just 42.27, 1 home run, 2 steals on the board, a 282 xWOBA is a little underwhelming, but a 112 WRC plus. Needs to pick things up and continue making good plate appearances to keep this job, but that's his pedigree. I mean, we expect this kid to be a very, very good offensive player. I think he's a little bit cheap right now for the upside. Grisham was on a roll. He looks very good right now. I promise he is not the hitter that's sitting at 344, 417, 656 with 3 home runs. You can mix and match your way to him. Oswaldo Cabrera is not much of a hitter at the bottom of the lineup, 31-23. 4 runs, 4 RBIs so far this season, a 318 xWOBA, even that's a little high, 83 WRC plus. He's fine to slide through a couple lineups, but honestly, not at third base and not at first or third base on DraftKings. This is a guy you want at second, sliding into some middle infielder or outfield shares here and there, because that's what he is. Not much of a hitter. This very firmly goes Yankees bats. I don't even know if I want to do that, honestly. I'm so much more intrigued by those Royals bats. Or I'm so intrigued by those Royals bats, I should say. But I think if I'm remembering the board correctly, it's Yankees over Royals. So I'll do that. Yankees, Royals, Lugo, and for me, it's really no Carrasco. But you could maybe throw a couple darts at him at 6,000 on DraftKings. If you're building 150 lineups, that's probably the spot to do it. Red Sox and Rays. We do have the Red Sox lineup in. Grab that. As mentioned, Red Sox, this is a spot where I'm kind of interested in both pitchers. Definitely interested in bats on both sides. And if I had to say which way this game would go, I would favor the bats. I think that's how Vegas is seeing it as well. Both pitchers project out fine, though. Baz over a 30-point FanDuel projection, over a 16-point DraftKings projection for 8,400 over there is appealing. There's definitely strikeout upside. You can see he's sitting at 31.4% over his 2 starts, 13 innings. Went 7 in his most recent one. That was faced 28 hitters against the Angels. Struck out 6, but walked 4, gave up a home run, but only 2 earned runs on 3 hits. It's a strong start. That was in this home park, but the weather was a little bit cooler that day. Against Pittsburgh, he went 6. He gave up 7 hits, but no earned runs. He struck out 10 in a monster performance in his season debut. You've got plenty of Ks showing for this Red Sox lineup so far this year. If you're looking at the same hitters from last year, you got a couple small samples, but like the heart of the Red Sox lineup, there are definitely strikeouts through those guys. That collection of 5 hitters last year was 27.4%. That's Jarren Duran, Rafi Devers, Willie Abreu, Trevor Story, and Tristan Casas. It's kind of the meat of their batting order, with apologies to Alex Bregman, who is fantastically low strikeout typically. So there are Ks there for Shane Baz, but he's got to fade a good amount of power. You've got Rafi over the magic number at 10.89. He's hit 1 this season. We're back down to 234, 351, 359. The numbers have been bouncing kind of all over the place, but the barrels are there. The hard hits are there. 17.5% barrels and 60% hard hits. A 340 xWOBA. He's created runs positively, and all those numbers will continue to go up as the swing gets back into shape. 4,900 is very cheap for Rafi Devers on DraftKings. 36 fully priced on FanDuel. Jarren Duran for 53.36, off to a slow start over 77 plate appearances. Definitely not anywhere near where you expected him. 5 stolen bases, but just a 286 on base, a 299 xWOBA, a 66 WRC+. It's problematic. Still expensive at 53 on DK. It's kind of unjustified to have him still up there with Rafi down at 49. Same price as Rafi on FanDuel. Makes sense. They're sticking to their guns on very good players there, and I think that's correct. Bregman at 5 is appropriate on DK. 32, arguably a couple $100 cheap on FanDuel. Like, that makes things work a little bit better if you're going to this team. You go those 3, and then I would probably jump down to $2,700 Casas. And then you're using, obviously, third base and util. But that dips us to $3,275 for 3 lefty bats and their best righty. And remember, everything about lefties in Yankee Stadium applies, and is probably going to apply with an exclamation point in the warm weather in this ballpark, because it is Yankee Stadium. It is the cookie cutter of Yankee Stadium transplanted to Florida heat. So love lefties in this park all season long. Tristan Casas at 27 is cheap. At 35, very cheap on DraftKings. So he'd be my next click there. And between him and Bregman, especially on FanDuel at 32, kind of gets inexpensive. On DraftKings, it's probably more about Willier's price at 48. That's a little bit cheap for 13.2% barrels, 55.3% hard hits, which is kind of a continuation with a little bit of an uptick over what he's done last year. So far, 19.4% strikeouts and walks. Last year, it was more like 28 and 9. I expect he's going to return toward that level. But if he can cut this from 28 to like even 23, 24, it's a monster improvement. You're just getting more batted balls there from a hitter is very good. 340, 468, 600 with a 429 xWOBA so far, 195 WRC+, 3 homers, 2 steals. It's an excellent bat, left-handed. Another player in this stadium, definitely upside. Story at 42.29, off to a good start. 308, 328, 477. He's hit 3 home runs. He's stolen 6 bases. Just a 304 xWOBA, a little slight tick below average. We'll see where he ends up, but an encouraging start overall on the top end numbers. 127 WRC+ if you want a tiebreaker. Told you Story wasn't done yet. Christian Campbell, their hot rookie, 4,200, off to another player off to a good start. Imagine how they'd be tearing things up right now if their established 2 stars up here had done anything to start the season, because everybody else has been good. Or well, throw Casas into that as well. But Campbell's off to a great start to his career. 309, 409, 491, a 377 xWOBA. Grady runs 56% better than average over 66 plate appearances. 4,000 is still cheap. 29 with outfield eligibility added to his second base positioning. I'd probably just stick him at second. But if you're looking to pair him with, say the Royals, and you want to go like Michael Garcia at second, there's some appeal there to just being able to drop him in the outfield. I think Garcia's got multi-position too. David Hamilton, mix and match. Carlos Narvaez, same thing. Tanner Houck, good ground ball pitcher, typically good at limiting power. Had a problematic outing in his last one. No, that was 2 starts back. And it actually wasn't as bad as I remember. 3 earned runs on 5 hits. He only went 4 innings. That's what sticks out. That was against the Orioles. Last start, he was good. 6 2/3, gave up just 1 on 5 hits, faced 24 hitters, struck out just 2, walked 2. That's where you can run into some downside with Houck. You need him to be able to eat those innings. Just a 20.7% strikeout rate last year, 21.4 in 106 innings the year before. But a 3.12 ERA, 3.57 xFIP, clean on walks, doesn't allow too many opportunities or base runners. And again, a 3.9 degree average launch angle last year, clipped barrels, so you don't really care about hard hits as much. 1.48% home run rate allowed with a very positive number via Stuff Plus. So we like the arsenal. This year, it's slipped by about 10 points in his first few outings, which is something to watch. If he doesn't have the same stuff as last year, we should not be expecting the same numbers. So far, what it's resulted in that jumps out immediately is a few more fly balls, a little bit more launch, definitely more success in the home runs. And if he's going to be allowing launch angles more like this, we care a lot more about the fact that we're at 53.1% hard hits, 91.1 miles an hour of exit velo. That could get problematic in this ballpark, and especially around guys like Brandon Lau. Around guys like Christopher Morel, who I've singled out a few times as being a player who swings the bat with excellent force and should create excellent batted ball events. There's power. There's on-base skills in this Tampa lineup. There's a little bit of speed. Playable spot for Houck. Lower ceiling overall for Houck than for Shane Baz on the other side of this game. But that's why he's cheaper. Neither pitcher safe. With a 4.45 implied total, the Rays are kind of interesting. Joker's over here saying hi, by the way. Bunch of lineups landed. Let me see if we got this one. We did. Oops. Come on. So, Yandy Diaz, customary spot at the top of the lineup. He is down to just 2,600 on FanDuel, 4,000 on DraftKings. Just take advantage of the cheap price. This is a player who puts tons of bat on ball. Last year, 15.3% strikeouts, 8.1% walks. Was excellent the year before. 13.6% strikeouts, 4.5% walks so far this year. 9.3% barrels and 51.9% hard hits. So we're talking about a ton of frequency of contact, a ton of quality of contact. So far, it's resulted in 210, 242, 355 in his traditional slash line with just a 145 ISO. Also just a 298 xWOBA. The results haven't been there. The under-the-radar numbers haven't been there in anything other than just the raw frequency of contact and the quality of contact. Some of that is attributed to where on the field the ball has been hit, which is part of the equation with xWOBA. So there are artificial limitations that I think are driving the price way further down than the talent warrants. He's also got 2 home runs on the board. He's stolen a base. He's in an excellent spot in the lineup for a very cheap price. So if you're going Rays, which I think is very much on the board at a mid-board implied total, I definitely want to include Yandy Diaz there, and I think he's totally justifiable to include at first base on either side. Brandon Lau's an absolute priority in that lineup, 5.90 in the home run model. Doesn't necessarily reflect his pure home run hitting upside and what his home run number would look like if we get into the bullpen early, let's say. Part of that is just because of Tanner Houck's ability to clip the wings of home run power a little bit. But Lau's an excellent masher of home runs at second base. 3 on the board this season, a 398 xWOBA, 109 WRC plus, doing Brandon Lau things with a 14% barrel rate, 46.5% hard hits so far. Junior Caminero, excellent bat, 10.3% barrels, 46.2% hard hits, off to an encouraging start. 283, 15, 500, a 323 xWOBA is a little bit above the mark, 136 WRC plus. I like all of that to climb on quality. This kid is good. 3 home runs on the board already. True power bat, again, in this ballpark is going to be appealing. It's just not the ideal pitcher for a young kid to go out there and find his way to a home run against. But 4,500, 2,700, those prices make it work. Jonathan Aranda making very good contact over 45 plate appearances, limited number of batted ball events, but 20% barrels, 60% hard hits so far. He's at 395, 467, 711 with a 471 xWOBA, 236 WRC plus. He's been an absolute monster out of the gate. 3,800, 2,800. He does have second base eligibility, which is where I'd be more interested in putting him on FanDuel, especially if I'm going to Diaz off the top. He's playable. He's more a depth option, I think, if you're going to Rays, but at least he's interesting. The guy who's more interesting to me, though, Chris Morel, 41-26, multi-position eligible for just 26 on FanDuel, 20.8% barrels. I expect the barrels to be big time all season long. I do expect power out of him this season. 1 home run on the board, 2 stolen bases, a 348 on base with a 376 xWOBA at 122 WRC plus. Just needs to continue basically doing what he's doing right now, and he is not fully priced. So you're getting a nice discount on Morel in a favorable ballpark, favorable conditions, favorable lineup spot, but not the ideal pitcher to go against. Cameron Misner for just 34 is also putting good bat on ball over just 40 plate appearances. 361, 400, 611 with a 379 xWOBA, home run and a stolen base on the board. Everybody hits for a little bit of power. A lot of these guys steal at least a couple bases. You guys have guys like Jake Magnum down at the bottom of the lineup for cheap. He's got 6 stolen bases. We're down to 286, 302, 333. The xWOBA is at just 276. The ISO's at 0.048. Let's remember this guy is just a low-end quad A guy. He's not even a quad A guy. Whatever's between like your olds and you're like between a double A and a triple A player. He's like a 2.5 A, not a quad A. But he's here. He's filling a lineup spot. Why this isn't Chandler Simpson is beyond me. Hopefully they'll change that very soon. If you're not familiar, look at clips of Chandler Simpson. There's a great one going around of him beating out a slow chopper to the first baseman. He chopped the ball, took like 3 hops. The first baseman fielded it, started to run toward first base, looked over and saw how close to first base Simpson already was and gave up. The kid is the fastest player I've ever seen on a baseball field, and he can hit. Really interested in that kid when he gets here. But right now, it's Jake Magnum. You do have a mix and match piece in Taylor Walls, who will steal you the occasional base. Not off to a great start, but he does have 3 stolen bags on the board. And then Danny Jansen's like a mix and match catcher. He did hit a home run the other day to bend a slate, but we're talking about a 221 xWOBA over 40 plate appearances, 54 WRC pluses. Not a lot to see down the bottom of the lineup here. This very much goes. Very much? Might have been an overstatement. Despite where Vegas is at, I got to give it to this better Red Sox lineup. I think I lean Red Sox, Shane Baz, Rays, Tanner Houck. 4 corners, though. All 4 pieces of this are usable. Steven Lexaranda in the prop world. Bobby Witt, Brandon Lau off to on paper. Seems like Tampa and Kansas City are the 2 best stacks. I do like both those stacks. Probably, I like KC a little bit better. Again, I really don't think there's much there watching Carrasco pitch. So I think we can get that KC stack, and if we can get them a little bit lower owned. Oh, India's back? Beautiful. So Michael drops to 6th. All right, that's a good spot for him. No MJ. That's a little bit different. Let me throw that up real quick. So just because we're talking about him, the KC lineup is a little bit different. India, excellent to have him back up at the top. You're getting him for just 4,200, third base or outfield on DK. Second base added to that. I would want him mostly at second base for 2,800 on FanDuel. Weak start in terms of the just counting stats, just a couple of runs scored, 208, 333, 264. The most critical thing for him is the on-base number. 336 xWOBA shows that hitting the ball a little bit more quality than might be showing in the numbers so far. 40% hard hit rate backs that up. All we need India to do is be low, strikeout, high walk, get to first base, and set the table for Bobby Witt, Vinny, Sal, etc. No MJ is kind of a downgrade down toward the back end. It loses, it shortens this part of the lineup up a little bit, but having Michael down there is another effective bat. I just like MJ's lefty power a lot more than, say, Kevin Biggio here. You do get 4 positions out of Biggio, though, for 2,200. That's usable. He is a lefty in this ballpark. But the Biggio Waters Isbell is a little bit weak to the bottom end. It's a little bit threatening as far as turning the lineup over. But again, Carrasco is kind of the target here. So as long as these guys do their thing, these guys are easily capable enough of scratching out a few base hits, and you do get the odd, big knock from a low-owned guy like that can change a slate, especially, min-price Drew Waters home run makes things happen. So you want a few shares of those guys if you're going to Kansas City. And I don't think we're that threatened, despite their lack of quality generally, because of the lower end pitcher there. So I think you get more opportunities to turn the lineup over than you would get if, say, Carlos Rodon or Max Fried was on the mound. Is where we were, right? Yeah. Blue Jays is in. Braves is not. All right. Grant Holmes. Just 4 innings exactly in each of his last 2, but really encouraging start against Philly in his most recent one. He faced 19 hitters. He gave up 3 hits, no runs, struck out 6. He walked 4. The pitch count's gotten away from him in the last 2 starts. That's why we only dealt with 4 innings and 19 hitters in both. Gave up 4 earned on 4 hits to the Dodgers at LA in the second start of the year, or second appearance of the year, first full start, excuse me. Struck out 3, walked 4, allowed a home run. That was a little bit bumpy. But the kid's got talent, and he's only 65. Like I said, if we're kind of mining this territory, I do think that's where I would look on DK. But I also think that you've got so many good options in this range, in the 7s and the 8s, that you probably don't need to go down to a $6,500 price against a relatively low strikeout Blue Jays team. And I say relatively while they're sitting at an absurd 15.4% so far this season. That number will come up a little bit, but this team is truly justifiably low strikeout, especially this configuration of this lineup when you drop like a Miles Straw in there and his crazy low strikeout rates. So it's not an ideal target, but if you're just looking for the Apple box, the cheap, step stool type price there for SP2, I think he's usable. So far over the 2 starts, the 9 innings, 26.8% strikeouts, a solid 11.4% swinging strike rate. The stuff plus mark is a little bit below average, but there are some high functioning pitches in there, and he was above average pretty much across the board through spring training. So kind of a bumpy start as far as the quality of the pitches there. He's allowed some barrels, way too much hard hit and exit velo, but it hasn't completely burned him because he's kept the ball down a little bit. Just 23.3% CSW is also a little bit concerning. So a lot of problems here and might not find the strikeouts. That's why I'm not really recommending it as your value guy, but he is at least on the board. Easton Lucas. Let's look at this guy. So, like I said, that the price kind of surprised me. He did strike out 8 against Boston in 5 1/3, faced 20 Red Sox, gave up just 3 hits. They've been a little bit up and down with lefties so far this season. Against the Nats in his first start, he struck out just 3. He walked 2. He went 5 innings, gave up just 1 hit in that one. So he's pitched very clean so far. He's like exactly at league average by stuff plus, a 0 ERA, but a 2.99 xFIP tells us the truth a little bit. He's walked 7.9% in the tiny sample. The swinging strike rate, though, very encouraging. Solid CSW numbers. Obviously, no power or anything allowed yet. Some fly balls. Last year in a cup of coffee, 11 2/3, a 16.4% strikeout rate. Give up some runs. Kind of negligible numbers there, or negative numbers there. Got to find the truth somewhere in the middle, I guess. Let me move this over there so I can actually type. Pull his grass page back up here real quick. So he's 28.5. So we're not talking about a prospect. I would like to see his stats, please. I don't know why I have to click on everything 4 times today. In the minors, in 24, across 3 different organizations, same level, all at AAA, but he went from Oakland to Detroit to Toronto's organization. Totaled 38 appearances, 4 starts, 68 2/3, so mostly working in relief. He had a 2.75 ERA, but a 4.75 xFIP. Again, pitching as a 27-year-old, mostly in relief in AAA. It's not all that encouraging. Mostly has been a reliever. Outside of those 4 starts and the 2 starts in the show so far this year, 1 start in, oh no, that one's also 24. 9 starts back in 2019 was the only other time he had started. No really encouraging numbers outside of some okay strikeout rates. In that minor league sample last year, 26.2% Ks, but again, 10% walk rate. Pretty ugly. My suspicion is that this is completely not real and not going to continue. I'm much more interested in this than anything going on over here. 3 Braves showing power in the 13s on the home run model. Another Ozzy Albies at 9.48. Sean Murphy at 9+. Brian De La Cruz at 8.3. Michael Harris down the lineup at 8.2. Braves are showing monster power upside. You've got in this projected version of the lineup anyway, Stuart Fairchild at the dead min at 2,100 on FanDuel, very usable. Orlando Arcia is not completely dead at 2,300 at shortstop, even though he hasn't done much of anything this year and was relatively bad last year. I'm much more interested in the upside from the Braves, and Vegas is kind of backing that up at 4.61 implied runs. So we're just kind of taking bats in this one, I think. It was at least worth looking at because these prices definitely suggest a better pitcher than I think what this kid actually is. 9,000. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but 9,000 on FanDuel especially is aggressive. There are Ks here for sure. 26.7% strikeout rate so far for this team, 23% last year. There's so much power upside and just general quality. Ozzy Albies kind of correcting the numbers in a hurry already. Up to 250, 318, 433. The XWOB was at fine at 341. Creating runs 14% better than average. He's got 3 homers on the board now. Austin Riley, 2 home runs on the board. We're working on the numbers. 332 XWOB is encouraging. 114 WRC plus. The 161 ISO is still way off the mark from where we expect this player, but what's really encouraging for him is the 19.5% barrels in the small sample, the 48.8% hard hits. That jibes with the contact he's made over the last few years. Last season was a down year, but we had 3 straight years of 30-plus home runs from Austin Riley. 46.31 is too cheap for that player against this pitcher. Marcell Ozuna at 47 on DraftKings. 38 on FanDuel, they got it correct. He was their best player by far. All of last season was 300 plus for the season, 304, 381, 552, a 247 ISO. Creator runs 56% better than average with 39 homers last year. And we're out of the gate over 65 plate appearances at 306, 477, 531 with a 224 ISO, 416 XWOBA, but creating runs 88% better than average with 3 homers on the board. And DraftKings decided that warrants making him cheaper than he was for basically every single game all of last year. Kind of weird. FanDuel's got it right at 38. You just fire away with Marcell Ozuna against this guy. Matty Olson, I don't sweat the lefty here, 4,800. I just like the price, the power upside, 3,000 on the FanDuel slate. We're struggling early in the season. 200, 323, 309 is is not where we want the numbers, but the barrels, the contact, the premium contact is very encouraging. 18.2%, 59.1% over 65 plate appearances. The XWOB at 413 is very encouraging. So just a matter of time till those numbers look completely different in the front and the back of the baseball card stats for Olson. Love the option. Absolute priority to have him, Riley, and Ozuna in most of your Brave stacks. Murphy for just 4,000 is a definite priority on DraftKings. 3 home runs on the board in his 22 plate appearances. Looking a whole hell of a lot like Sean Murphy of old. 27.3% barrels, 45.5% hard hits so far. That's just what Sean Murphy does. He's a power hitting catcher. He's excellent. 386 XWOBA, 201 WRC plus in the tiny sample. Still very cheap for who he is on DraftKings. 29 on FanDuel. I do think you can use him in conjunction with Olson. And honestly, you can probably mix and match your way kind of evenly through those two in an abundance of Brave stacks, just using first base if you don't want them together. Because Murph is that good. You're getting him against a lefty. There's tons of power upside and not equal power upside to Olson. But when we're talking about catchers, that evens things out in a hurry. Obviously, the catcher first base on FanDuel matters less, but you get me. Brian De La Cruz is still just 2,700 on DraftKings, 2,500 on FanDuel. That's because he's at 205, 262, 231. Just a 257 XWOBA, a 44 WRC plus. Encouraging over here. Again, small sample, 8.7% barrels, 47.8% hard hits, but that is kind of in line with who Brian De La Cruz is. And last year he hit 21 home runs in 622 plate appearances. It's kind of sick that I have most of these things committed to memory now. So I do think he's very usable out of this spot if he's down there. I doubt we're seeing Jared Kelenic against the lefty. That's where we get our Stuart Fairchild shares in this projected. Did this drop yet? Nope. For Fairchild, 12 plate appearances that we'll largely ignore here. Hit 8 home runs in 233 last year. Year before 5 in 255. There was a good I thought. Am I misremembering Stuart Fairchild? I thought we had one sample of like 12 to 14 home runs out of him somewhere along the way. No, I must just be remembering the 8 from last year. Yeah, so a mix and match piece. Maybe I'm remembering his minor leagues. He had 11 in 2022. He had 12 in... Nah, I'm not going that far back. Yeah, just a cheap mix and match righty to throw into some stacks as a little bit of a building block at the dead min price at 2,100. There's not a lot to see there, but the model's encouraging at 6.34. This is average contact over the last couple seasons in minimal plate appearances. High strikeout there. Michael Harris at 42.27, a little diminishment against the lefty, but 2 home runs, 2 steals. And again, this is not a top-end lefty by at least our estimations right now. And then RC is just a mix and match at 2,300. That's a bad start over 25 plate appearances. Last year was bad. He did hit 17 home runs, so you get a little bit of pop infrequently from him down lineup, but that's really all you get these days. The top-heavy Blue Jays, it really is kind of about those guys. Everybody else is basically struggling, with apologies to Miles Straw, who's not really much of a DFS option. So it really is very straightforward. Just you want those 4 guys, and then you might mix in a few shares of somebody else further down the lineup, but really that is tight focus up there. Does maybe benefit the Grant Holmes play at 6,500, but everybody's low strikeout, which is problematic for him. You do have star caliber talent in Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero, Anthony Santander, and then you have Andres Jimenez mixed in. 314, 364, 386 with a 433 xWOBA is right where we want Bo Bichette. Over 77 plate appearances, though. 9.8% barrels, 52.5% hard hits. I think it's easy to say that he's back and fully engaged. 118 WRC plus. So just needs to continue that. 4,400, 2,900. He is too cheap for what he's already done this season, and he's way too cheap for his talent at those prices. 54 for Vladdy is more correct, I'll say, than 31 is. That is downright cheap for Vlad Guerrero. 7.71 in the home run model. Yeah, he hasn't hit a homer yet this season. We had this kind of a start last year from Vladdy. The rest of the numbers are fine. 385 xWOBA with a 118 WRC plus, 302, 366, 365. Hard hit rates at 50.9%. He's missed a few barrels, but still a solid 9.4%. It's not striking out. It's just a matter of time. Absolutely prioritize Vladdy if you're stacking Blue Jays. He is super cheap on FanDuel. Getting those 3 hitters for $2,900 a piece, that is an ideal 3-man on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's a little more expensive. It's 4.7K or 4.8, but still very affordable. But right here, that is a really cheap little pocket of hitters. You can take or leave Andres Jimenez at 31. It's honestly a little expensive for him. 47, same thing on DraftKings. He's been fine. He's got 3 oddball home runs. He's got 5 stolen bases. I've talked about him before. Once upon a time, one of the top prospects in baseball. The xWOBA suggests that there's been quality under the covers. The 207 ISO is great. The 30% above average grading runs so far is great. He is low strikeout, low walk, so high frequency of contact. But out of the desirable hitters in this lineup, he's easily the most discardable. So if I'm going 3-man and I'm doing it for cheap, it's right there. It's absurd that Andres Jimenez is the same price as Vladdy Guerrero. You guys see that, right? I'm not hallucinating right now. That's complete insanity. I'm not saying that makes the Blue Jays the top priority stack of the day or by any means, but I am saying that price is bananas. Vladdy's probably going to get popular as a one-off at that price. Santander hasn't done much of anything. He's got 1 home run on the board. The xWOBA is just 287. It's a really discouraging 71 plate appearances. I think he's going to be absolutely fine. I think we're getting more than 30 home runs in the long run. 45-28, just cheap for that hitter. Bottom of the lineup, though, Ernie Clement at 25-23. Mix and match him across shares, I guess. 275 xWOBA for him. 232 so far for Alan Roden, who's just been a spring training player and then a complete bust. 250, 326, 300, a 50, 0.050 rather, ISO, 89 WRC plus. Just kind of an empty line over 46 plate appearances. Again, it's a nothing sample for the kid. If we look up numbers from last year, Clement had 12 homers, 12 steals. It's a minor amount of DFS quality over 452 plate appearances, but a 94 WRC plus. He's not a true run creator. He's just cheap. So you're just going to a cheap guy who doesn't really make good contact. You're hoping he draws walks, gets on base, and then gets driven in by the likes of a struggling Rodon, a non-quality contact Miles Straw, who's just hope that he gets on base and steals you a bag type. Nathan Lukes, who has not been very good out of the gate. 26 plate appearances, Sub Mendoza 346 is good. 356 xWOB is encouraging. Last year, over 91 plate appearances, he hit for a little bit of average. He got on base. He created runs. Didn't hit for much power. So there's really not much to cling to. I guess you're hoping that Lukes gets on base, turns the lineup over for those guys. So maybe if we're mining for a wraparound, we go Lukes from the bottom for 28-22, ahead of any of these guys, and ahead probably of Tyler Heineman. If you want to take Heineman shares on DraftKings at 29, if you're stacking this team up a lot, probably wouldn't be completely crazy to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 8, 9 to put that in a more sane way and play the wraparound for both those spots. Because they're both very, very cheap. And it kind of jibes with the theme of that whole stack being cheap. Heineman, I knew he had a little bit of a sample hiding here. 2022, he made 174 totally empty plate appearances, and that was his biggest sample at the major league level. Has a home run on the board in 20 opportunities so far this year. Come on. Last year in the minors, 6 home runs, 8 steals. It's been a minute since he put up even minor league quality. 273 plate appearances all the way back in 2019. Now he had 13 home runs. Not a lot there. At that point, if you had said, if you stretch it out over a full season, maybe he's interested. Maybe he would have been, but we haven't really seen it. So you're just throwing darts at that point. It's really about 1, 2, 3, but they're very cheap. For me, this is, and for Vegas, this is Braves bats, Blue Jays bats, and then Grant Holmes darts at 65. I'm really not playing Easton Lucas. Maybe I'm wrong. Anybody on the Easton Lucas? Monty says, need stronger psilocybin to make these prices work with Jimenez. B+ strain ain't cutting it. Need more. Yeah, I gotta make a dispensary run probably later tonight. I go into the city because Jersey is like 3 times the price as in the city. I don't know why, but city undercuts what the old, call your guy prices were by a pretty massive amount. It's a great deal. Tango's playing some Easton Lucas. All right. Just chasing the two good early starts, or have you seen buzz out there? He's somebody who is just kind of not on my radar, so that's why I'm asking. I don't remember him catching much buzz. You know what I can look at is what is pitch profile I'm looking at? Well, that's a pretty nice slider that Friedman clipped. I just like seeing if there's any reason to get excited about any of this being real. We have seen guys, in the reframing of how some pitches work, in the continued development of, chasing spin, chasing new pitches like sweepers, and, reestablishing how to utilize arsenals. Guys like this can be capable of taking a big step forward in a hurry and suddenly emerging as like a post-hype guy. Not that there was really hype here. But what I really want to see a little bit more backup on it. And I'm really not. I really question it here. If you're doing it, I hope it's on DK for 8,000. Just being right at the average on Stuff Plus tells us nothing. If that was sitting at like 110, I'd be like, oh, maybe he's figured something out. Maybe we've got a really functional new pitch that's getting him through all of a sudden at the major league level. But nothing about that Stuff Plus mark tells us that that's the case. It's a tricky spot. I greatly prefer the bats in that one. Let's move on. Chewing up a lot of time. Bunch of people here watching. Appreciate all you guys. Hit the like button when you get a chance. Subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. Love to keep pushing that number up a little bit more. Check out rotoscouts.com. Under $1 a day gets you access to NBA, NHL, every main slate for those, MLB, every main slate guaranteed. I've been dropping a lot of the earlies and stuff in there just because that's what I do. It's a lot of bang for your buck over at rotoscouts.com. Clay Holmes on the bump for the Mets, just 7,500 on DraftKings. Really interesting. 96 fully priced on FanDuel. Over 3 starts, 14 2/3, a very encouraging 29% strikeout rate, 4.30 ERA, but a very nice tidy 3.49 xFIP underneath it. We are a disaster in the whip and walks department so far. 13% walk rate, a 1.70 whip. Hasn't induced as many swinging strikes as I'd like to see, but it's not bad at 9.6%. 29.1% CSW is all right. Stuff plus is where we want it. We'd like to grab a little bit more if we can, but converted reliever, developed a few new pitches over the offseason. Came out of spring training with a ton of buzz and wasn't great in his first two. First one went 4 2/3, gave up 2 earned, 3 runs total on 5 hits, struck out 4, walked 4. Second start, that was against Houston, so it was like, all right, we'll forgive him that one. We talked about him being interesting for the season, but maybe not using him that day. The next start was against Miami. We were definitely wanting to use him that day. He only gave up 1 earned. 2 runs total, 6 hits was not great, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. That was okay. The next start was at Miami in New York, 5 1/3, 4 earned runs allowed. But actually in that one, pitched a lot better than he had in the first 2. Struck out 10, came away with really good numbers. Got dinged late, if I'm remembering it correctly, for where those runs came from. Still walked 3. We need to cut down the walks. We need to not be giving up opportunities to bad baseball teams. But the strikeout stuff is very encouraging for Clay Holmes. 17.1% Ks I don't think is realistic for this lineup. I think they're a lot more like the 23.9% that we got out of the same group of hitters from last year. Right now, that's carrying a very low 0 from Brooks Lee and an 11.5 out of Christian Vasquez, who's typically in the 20s. So I think we're much more like a 1 in 5, 1 in 4 kind of a team. And Clay Holmes has the ability to find those punch outs here. So that's a really cheap opportunity on DraftKings. Priority SP2 on DK at 7,500. I really like that spot. At 96, I'm going to use him on FanDuel and hope that he goes under owned for that price because that is a big number. I think he's got the talent to pay it off, but it's a really deep pitching slate. So it depends on, it's kind of one I'm going to let be shaped by, Sim and Optimizer and sorting results. Joe Ryan for 9,400, 23% K, still yet to walk anybody this season over 17 innings. Pretty spectacular strikeout to walk numbers. First start of the year, 5 innings, just gave up 1 earned, struck out 5. Second start, he gave up 4 earned on 5 hits over 5 innings to Houston. Struck out 6 in that one, but allowed 2 home runs. Home runs, again, a little bit wonky, so a little bit of a bump there. But was elite against Kansas City in over 7 innings. 2-hitter. No runs, 4 strikeouts, no walks. Very, very solid start. Tons of upside, and he's still not that expensive. 9,000. I mean, it's one of the higher prices overall on the slate. But in a vacuum, that's a pretty good price to find Joe Ryan. 94 on FanDuel is appropriate. The Mets have some strikeouts in this lineup, but they've also got some elite level talent, particularly up toward the top. So it's not a safe spot for Joe Ryan by any means. And if he's going to walk somebody for his first walk of the season, my money's on Juan Soto. Soto sitting at a 21.2% walk rate so far this year, 18% the last 2 seasons. Struck out at 16% last year, 18.2% the year before. So far, just 250, 409, 385. The 409 stands out. The 381 xWOBA stands out. Creating runs 33% better than average, despite a little bit of lack of power output. Still a perfectly valid 6,100 on DraftKings, 3,900, and a couple bucks cheap on FanDuel. You get him hitting between Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso, which is just tremendous. It's 3 superstars to start out your day. And yeah, I qualify Alonso. I know he's got his flaws as a hitter. I know he's not Aaron Judge, but the power is similar. And he's off to a tremendous start to his season. I think Pete is a little bit pissed off about what happened in free agency. 65 plate appearances. He's got 4 homers on the board. He's got a 478 xWOBA, 202 WRC plus, 26.7% barrel, 62.2% hard hits. The only guy doing better than that in New York is Ben Rice. So stupid. So Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Very expensive, very worthwhile, even against this pitcher. I'm interested. You have all three of those guys above the magic number for home run upside, which is kind of intriguing against the guy who will allow barrels, will allow some hard hits and some home runs. So there's upside for the Mets, and they could be a little sneaky. The problem, though, is you're paying basically full price for all three of those guys. They're worth it, but it'd be nice if we were getting like a little bit of a Joe Ryan discount. I don't think we are. But Brandon Nimmo is really cheap. If you're bolting it on and stretching out to five guys, you get a very cheap Nimmo, you get a very cheap Mark Vientos, and then you get an even lower price with Brett Beatty and Tyrone Taylor, who are not dead bats down for those prices at the bottom of the lineup. Makes these Mets interesting, makes them stackable, and I would say 5-man better than 3-man for that ability to average those prices down a little bit on DK while still drawing good bats. Like if you go those three, I would be more interested in Nimmo for the quality of contact, the on-base skills, the added power. But I think Marte is just as playable there at 39, just kind of does different things these days. But let's say we go Nimmo. So we take the top four, and let's try it with Vientos. It's 5,000 apiece, which is a little high for a 5-man. Let's say we go 3 with 39, and Vientos is going to take us to exactly 5. But if we go 3, Vientos, and let's say Brett Beatty, and we stick him at second base. That's got us down at 4,600 now for a stack that includes Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. And Mark Vientos, who I'll remind you was a elite power hitter last year with 27 home runs and just 450 plate appearances, 251 ISO. So far this year, just a 311 XWOB was not encouraging at all. Of 0.056 ISO, has not hit the ball very well at all over 63 plate appearances, hasn't made the elite contact that he was making last year, just 7.1% barrels, 33.3% hard hits. It's actually kind of appropriate that they've got him underpriced now on DK, but now we're drawing it down way toward the lower end. So I'm really encouraged by that price. If nothing else, 2,800, first and third base eligible on FanDuel. The other guy in the lineup with a 10 plus in the home run model. So very interesting bat there. Beatty puts good bat on ball. 9.5% barrels and 52.4% hard hits in a small sample this year. Kind of just ignore all of the other numbers over 36 plate appearances and just focus on that. It's been infrequent bat on ball, but when he's struck the ball, it's been good. Just hasn't resulted in anything. So there's some good and some bad there. 2,300 is a good price. 2,200 is too. Tyrone Taylor also hits the ball very hard. Also yet to do anything this season, but an interesting enough bat if he's in the lineup there. I guess I should have pulled the actually confirmed lineup. Fuck. It's different. Damn it. Sorry, guys. I got to remember to check those lineups. Everything I said, most of the rambling I did about the top end of the lineup still applies. Let me clean up the bottom, though. You have a very interesting Jesse Winker here now for 3,000. So far, 16.7% barrels over his 28 plate appearances. Everything I was saying just a minute ago still applies on Jesse Winker as well. Hasn't done much of interest other than barrel the ball a little bit so far this year, but this is a very interesting lefty bat with some true power upside. 200 ISO is also encouraging on the few batted ball events. Luis Torrens is a mix and match quality catcher. He's barreled a few balls. He's hit the ball pretty hard so far this season. That's not really his game. Then Taylor's still there, and then Luis Angel Acuna is kind of interesting. Their premium prospect down toward the bottom. Not a great start for him over 31 plate appearances. He has stolen 3 bags. Maybe you mix him in for cheap at middle infield spot. So now this goes like that is still the same, but this, you get that, and you're at 4,800 with Winker in there. A little bit, we were at 46 the other way with Marte. Probably prefer Marte to Winker, though, or to prefer Winker to Marte, get the lefty pop in there. On the Twins side, 4.13 implied total for them. I'll grab their confirmed lineup. Edward Julian is indeed leading off. Lefty bat with a little bit of pop, but a lot of struggles for consistency and quality. He's off to an okay start so far this year. Encouraging contact. 17.2% barrels and 44.8% hard hits. That's what I'm talking about when I mean encouraging contact. He's also down so far in a small sample at 23.8% Ks, which is an improvement because he's a 30% strikeout guy. But again, we got to give that sample a little bit of time to normalize a little bit more. 282, 333, 436, a very strong 395 xWOBA so far, 125 WRC plus with a home run on the board for 3,000 for 2,300 against a converted reliever of a pitcher. Fire away if you're going to the Twins. I know I said I like Clay Holmes, and I do, and I meant that, but I wanted to highlight how you can kind of talk about that situation both ways, because Clay's been putting too many guys on base. He has a little bit of a tendency to slip in that regard. Needs to punch his way out via the strikeout a lot of the time. The ability to induce the ground ball should be on his side in the long term. So far it has been, but we'll see. So I think the Twins are at least interesting as long as they're at 4+, which they are. Byron Buxton for just $44.35. FanDuel's got the price right. Byron Buxton remains a star when he's in the lineup. DraftKings, a little bit cheap, 11.8% barrels, 52.9% hard hits in the small sample so far. Otherwise, it looks like Byron Buxton. Weak batting average, weak on base, but an excellent ISO, a lot of power there, 3 home runs on the board, 3 stolen bases. Too many strikeouts, not enough walks, but the price is right over here. Willie Castro, 3,900 at second base and third base, 4 positions for just 28 on FanDuel. He's got a homer. He's got a stolen base. He was pretty good through most of last season with 12 home runs, 14 steals, a 108 WRC plus. But that's the kind of player he is. He's fine in the 3 spot in a real life lineup, but he's not an ideal big upside DFS guy. You can kind of see that hiding in the home run market, just 1.55. Not a lot of power showing for the Twins. Matt Wallner, if you're mining contact, though, 11.8% barrels, 44.1% hard hits, monster power bat. Really like the upside long-term for Wallner. 1 home run on the board this year, 354 xWOB is encouraging, 130 WRC plus so far. Carlos Correa for 41.28. Not a great start for him. These numbers, I promise you, will come around. Highlighted multiple times the half season of last year, which would have been, that's an all-star season, 367 plate appearances, at 14 home runs. You just double it if you're assuming continued quality. Probably fall short of that, but that's a 23 to 25 homer season, let's say, if we're being fair. Carlos Correa has always been good. He's just cheap. Trevor Larnach, decent lefty bat for 32.27. Hasn't done much yet this season, but makes decent contact, 10.1% barrels, 45.1% hard hits last year. Ty France, not a bad start. 298, 355, 456 is where we're looking for Ty France with the triple slash, and 9.4% barrels. If he can barrel the ball and elevate a little bit more this year, maybe we do get a 20-ish home run season out of Ty France. Not out of the question. 2 on the board this year, but 158 ISO is probably the more real number. 385 xWOB underneath is encouraging, though. Brooks Lee, mix and match guy, light contact type, and Christian Vasquez down toward the bottom of the lineup, not appealing. Joe Ryan, Clay Holmes, particularly on DraftKings for the discount. Mets bats, Twins bats. Definitely a 4 corners game. All right. Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. Does not look like we've got either of these lineups. So dueling southpaws. One of these things not quite like the other. I mentioned Skubal's first 2 at the beginning of the show, gave up a few runs in each, struck out 8 against Seattle in Seattle, but gave up 3 earned runs, which was a disappointing DFS start for those of us who were riding that spot very heavy because we chased Seattle in Seattle. The 8 strikeouts were good. The 3 walks were not. He allowed a home run, which kind of bent the day, but then came out and pitched against the Yanks in Detroit on a very cold day, struck out 6, walked none, no runs, 4 hits allowed over 6, faced 22 Yankees and was dynamite, and just going to improve from there. It's Tarek Skubal. I don't think we overthink this one. 30% strikeouts last year, a 2.39 ERA with a 2.83 xFIP, 14.6% swinging strikes. Was excellent for limiting power, missing barrels, limiting hard hits, limiting exit velocity. It's just what he does. So 10-5, 10-3 against a Brewers team with decent ability to limit strikeouts so far this year in a small sample, but same guys last year, a little bit more aggressive as far as that overall strikeout rate goes. That's probably got some low sample sizes in it, though. Yeah, that includes 52. We got to take that out of there. So more like the 21, 22%. But against Skubal, he's going to go find those Ks. You do have quality bats around Jackson Chourio, William Contreras, Christian Yelich, obviously, but it thins out awfully quick in Milwaukee. A lot like their pitching staff. This lineup is a couple bright spots, and then, I don't know. Not really sold on the bottom half of this lineup. Sal Frelick's okay. Contact-oriented hitters, currently slashing 321, 406, 393, which is great. A 333 xWOB is perfectly fine. But more a contact and speed type. Needs to get on base, set the table for guys like Chourio, Yelich, Contreras. But for some reason, he hits behind those guys, which is not overly helpful for our purposes. Joey Ortiz at 33.26.
208, 311, 226 with a 280 xwOBA. No real power to speak of right now. 4.6% barrels and 38.2% hard hits last year. Decent at limiting strikeouts, can get on base a little, but not an ideal option. Again, from the heart of the lineup, you don't get much out of Isaac Collins, Vinny Capra, and Bryce Turang to drive him in. Turang's good. So far, over 71 plate appearances, he's 333, 366, 485, a 374 xwOBA with three home runs and 3 steals on the board. If you're getting that kind of production out of Turang, he should jump back toward the top of the lineup, honestly. But at least that's helped the case for guys through this stretch. But really, it's kind of weak if you're stringing together more than 2 of these guys, unless it's just grabbing Turang to wrap them back around here. So I would think 1 through 6, but mostly 1 through 4, and then a big drop down to grab 9 and just bolt them back onto the top. And the most appealing way to build it is probably 9, 1, 2, 3, and then I would say you pick between Rhys Hoskins, Sal Frelick, and Joey Ortiz. And that's probably your best approach. Obviously, you're taking the most expensive guys off the team, so I'm not breaking new ground there. But that's probably how I would go about hand building this lineup. For me, it's probably Hoskins. I'll just take the alleged power upside at first base, but he's really struggled over 50 plate appearances. No homers, 285 xwOBA, most notably a 55 WRC plus. Just 3.3% barrels is really discouraging in a small sample. 12.7% last year. We need him to get back to putting good bat on ball. 41.26. The price is right to try and find out. He does have a 7.19 in the home run model. So if you're drawing down against Tarek Skubal for some reason, you probably include the righty power bat over these guys. You absolutely include all 3 of those guys at the top of the lineup in every Brewer stack that you make. If, again, for some reason, you're drawing down against Skubal. But this is not the spot to just be contrarian for contrarian's sake. I say that a lot. When you do that, you want to do it with low-owned team, with good hitters, which this Brewers squad could qualify as, given the guys I highlighted. But you don't do it against the best pitcher in baseball. It's just not the right spot. Yeah, they'll go out there from time to time. You roll this 100 times, they'll go out there and score 3.5 to 5.5 runs a handful of times. Sure. No doubt about it. But the days where they really break this slate, put up a 10, a 12, so few and far between that I don't think it's the right spot to chase, even for contrarian reasons. Tyler Alexander, 2 starts, 4 outings so far. Most recently at Colorado, he went 3 2/3 at Colorado, gave up 2 earned on 6 hits, gave up a homer, struck out 3, walked 2. Did have a 6 strikeout performance against Cincinnati in Milwaukee over 5 2/3. Faced 21 hitters, no hit, 6 strikeouts, but 3 walks. Last year, over 107 2/3, hybrid between 9 starts and some work out of the pen. A 5.10 ERA, a 4.63 xFIP. Didn't really walk many hitters, but didn't really strike many out either. Doesn't induce swinging strikes, doesn't throw that many strikes. No reason to like him via Stuff Plus, and plenty of reasons to target him with that 5+% home run rate last year. Small sample, but mostly working as a reliever back in 23. He had a 4+% home run rate, nearly 4.5 over 44 innings. Again, small sample, it doesn't tell us a ton. But given those 2 indicators, I would say there's definitely power upside here showing for the Tigers. And some of that's coming through the model. 9.86 in a lefty-lefty for Riley Green is kind of interesting. 3 home runs on the board already for Green. 217 ISO, but just a 257 xwOBA is something to watch. 8.6% barrels, 45.7% hard hits this year. Those numbers are in a small sample. The barrels are down slightly, but I would expect that's going to come roaring back, and I think that's where some of the xwOBA is gone. Gleyber Torres back at the top of the lineup for 42.31. Let's see if this came in just now. Nope, Houston did. So Gleyber's a really interesting bat. Hitting ahead of some of the power hitting kids that they've got in this lineup. I really like it. 17 plate appearances so far. We'll see what he is, but it's an encouraging 17 before he got hurt. 1 home run, a stolen base, 400, 471, a 354 xwOBA. Obviously, that sample means very little. Last year was better than people will give him credit for. 15 home runs, 257, 330, 378. Greater runs, 4% better than average. Just lost his power stroke, struck out more than he had been the year before. But in 2023, I was raving about him. 25 home runs, 13 steals. Had cut his strikeout rate significantly. Was putting tons of bat on ball. 180 ISO is fine. You're talking about a second baseman who's not high priced. Creator runs 23% better than average that year. If I was Brian Cashman, I would have kept Gleyber Torres. I would have kept Gleyber, played him at second, and play Jazzy at third, and then you don't have to deal with freaking Oswaldo Cabrera, Ozzy Peraza, and Pablo Reyes playing third base for us to start the season. I think it was a mistake by the Yankees to let Gleyber go. 4,200, 3,100 is a great price, better on DraftKings at second base. Andy Ibanez, if that's where he's hitting, mix and match quality piece. He's got a home run on the board, 348 xWOBA in his 25 plate appearances. There's not a ton to see there out of Ibanez. I think that was a slate bendy home run, if I'm remembering correctly. 11 homers 2 years ago in 383 is the most noteworthy sample. 264, 312, 433, a 169 ISO. He's serviceable and he's not expensive, but he's not a target. Spencer Torkelson is, though. Going up against a weak lefty who allows a ton of power. Torque has a 16.7% barrel, 55.6% hard hit to start the season, 9.01 in the home run model for just 3,700 on DraftKings. He's 32 on FanDuel because they noticed the 309, 409, 673 start, the 426 xWOBA, the 206 WRC plus, and the 5 home runs he's hit so far. Again, we'll do this one more time and probably a dozen more times in the next couple of weeks. 31 homers 2 years ago, justifying where he was taken as the first overall pick of his draft a few seasons before that. The first season was bad. The third season was not good. 381 plate appearances, spent some time down in the minors, just 10 home runs, just a 155 ISO. But everything about him so far this year suggests that we're back on board, that he is who he's supposed to be again. Whatever struggles as a young player, it's not there right now. Take advantage of the cheap price against this pitcher at 37. I would expect he'll be popular at that price. 32 is also a great price for him on FanDuel. Justin Henry Malloy at 25-27. If he's in the lineup, there's a little bit of skill there. 10.9% barrels is what I would point to last season. So far hasn't done much in his 40 plate appearances this year. Dylan Dingler, 343, 361, 600 with a 368 xWOBA out of the gate, 2 home runs. Playable. $3,900 catcher on DraftKings. If you're stacking up Tigers, you could do worse than just dropping him into a few catcher shares. Javi Baez, 286, 324, 371, but a 272 xWOB is the real number. Not really encouraged by the start. No barrels, 22.2% hard hits. No real true signs of life out of Javi. Ryan Kreidler, Zach McKinstry. McKinstry was a popular waiver wire pickup in season long this week. 298, 382, 447. A home run, a stolen base on the board so far. He's just kind of a mix and match talent, though. Not all that appealing. We'll see if he's even in the lineup, lefty-lefty. But priority 1, or no, excuse me. Priorities 1 and 2 right there. And then priority 1 is your next man in, I think, is Gleyber off the top. Maybe it's just a 3-man on both sites, but it's going to depend on what the final version of the lineup looks like. Tarek Skubal with a bullet. Tigers, bats. Really not that much from the Brewers. If you want to, again, I'll reinforce what I said, that this is not the stack to be contrarian for contrarian's sake, particularly if you're building a handful of lineups, 20 lineups. If you're playing the 25 max, you probably don't do it. If you're playing 150, you can take a few shots with the Brewers, but they're bottom of the barrel stacks-wise. Come on. 3 to go. We did just get the Astros lineup. And we have the cards. Hit the like button if you get a chance. Subscribe to the channel. Check out rotoscouts.com. Also give our guys over at acemind.io a look. Sim and optimization tools, including baseball, basketball, a lot of other sports, NFL. And that's not the correct lineup. Did I just drop the Cardinals into the Mariners? That's what you get for paying attention. Plugging things while you're doing this. Oh, it's not going to work because it's cut. That's so annoying. Excel can be so goddamn stubborn. Okay. If you're at the site looking for hockey projections, they'll be up shortly after this show. Just got a 2 or 3 teams to get through the line combinations for, and then they'll be up on the site. No NBA today, but NBA playing games the next couple of days, and then NBA playoffs, covering every slate for that. Synthetic is here. Michael Knack is here. Nice Spanish word salad. I feel like I'm all word salad today. I don't know. Hope you guys are getting stuff out of this show. Tatis or Mookie? Metro Boom 808 asks. I mean, you're just juggling a couple luxury items there. Mookie with a 10.75, by the way. Look at Ohtani at 17.77. Dodgers 5.61, kind of the stack of the day there. So Mookie for 62 or 41, depending on where you're playing, versus Tatis, who has a 13.18 for 6,042. I don't mind the slight discount on Tatis, to be honest. Get a little bit of a bump in the home run model from 10 and change to 13 and change for 200 less. Also depends somewhat on what position you need. Mookie's a shortstop. Tatis is an outfielder. 3 positions for Mookie on the FanDuel slate. Call it a tie, but on that slight discount from the top shelf, I would maybe lean Tatis a little bit, bud. Love you right back, Michael Knack. Appreciate you guys. Let's keep rolling, though. Bunch of people here watching. Let's get through these last couple of games. So 3.5 run totals for both of these teams. This is a good offense that's probably underperformed a little bit to start the season. This is a offense I don't really believe all that much in. So if you are drawing a team from this game, I think you go toward these bats rather than these bats. But I think this one's much more about the pitching. And getting Frommer at 88 on DraftKings is excellent. Getting Sonny Gray at 85 is honestly appealing. They're 10-7 and 98 on FanDuel. Those are starkly different prices. Sonny is looking a lot like Sonny Gray over his first 3 outings this season, 16 innings. He went 5 in his most recent start. He struck out 4, walked 0, gave up a homer, just 3 hits. That was against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. 6 innings in, faced 25 hitters. Did that one hit a rain delay in that Pittsburgh start? That's a short outing. I forget what happened there. Went 6, faced 25 hitters, allowed 5 earned runs on 5 hits to the Angels, but struck out 9 in that game. 2 homers allowed. He has given up a little power to early in the season. 6.45% home run rate. That'll most likely come down. But he has been a guy who will give up home runs here and there. Last year, 3.13% home run rate in what was otherwise a fantastic season. Sonny had a 3.84 ERA, a 2.82 xFIP last year, struck out 30% against a 5.8% walk rate. People do not give Sonny Gray credit for the season he had last year. 13.4% swinging, 31.2% CSW, 109 whip. He was excellent outside of a little bit of a blip in the power department. And even that 313 is perfectly fine when you're putting up those kind of numbers. Year before, 24.3% Ks, 2.79 ERA, but a 3.65 xFIP. This is more the Sonny Gray that I think people still expect when they see that name on for DFS. And so far, these 3 starts have looked like this guy in terms of the strikeouts, the walks, everything about it. Stuff plus is definitely down. That's noteworthy. Something to watch. That's a big dip. 14 points, basically. But he's gotten through it so far. So for 85, very interested. For 98, I'm interested. The thing about the spot, though, we do have a very low strikeout, very high quality Astros lineup on the other side. So it's a little bit more discouraging for Sonny. And then if you factor in the potential downside of, all these barrels and fly balls that he's allowed to hitters like Jordan Alvarez and Christian Walker and Jose Altuve and other concerning names in that Astros lineup, there are warts on the Sonny play. My hope would be if you get him that you're getting him a little bit less popular than he probably ought to be. And I think that's the reason you maybe chase the higher price on FanDuel. At 85, I would expect the popularity is probably going to be fairly appropriate on DraftKings. Frommer, I think, is the more appealing. He projects out second highest or third highest on the pitching board. I think it was second highest. Just a 19.6% strikeout rate so far for this Cardinals team, but this same group of hitters at 23.9 last year. Everybody basically at respectable samples outside of those 49 plate appearances from Luke and Baker, and he's at similar numbers, so it doesn't really matter. So I think we're talking about more like a 24-25% strikeout group in the long term than we are this big of an improvement that we've seen so far. But there are interesting hitters in this lineup. There's a little bit of right-handed power in this lineup, but Frommer is elite at limiting power. So I greatly lean Frommer against a lineup that I really don't think is that good. I've talked about it already this season, and they They came out with some good run creation. They've been scoring a little bit. They've been hitting for power a little bit. There are names that I like in this lineup, but it's more the up-and-comers like Jordan Walker. Arenado, I've talked about a lot, I think is kind of broken. I don't know if it's coming back. And if you want backup statistically for that, look no further than that 289 xWOBA, the 132 ISO so far. That jibes with that swing being broken. 4.1% barrels, 28.6% hard hits. If he's just going to be a hit tool guy now, 283, 387, 415, and carry those kind of numbers, then we're talking about a very different type of player than what we think of when we think Nolan Arenado. But he's not the threat that he once was as far as major DFS power upside. Lucan Baker is an interesting right-handed bat, though, for power upside. So far this season, in a small sample, 15.4% barrel, 61.5% hard hits. In his 49 plate appearances last year, he hit 2 homers. In 99, 2 years ago, he hit 2 homers. But he's got some minor league numbers that suggest some power upside. 2,400, 2,300. If you're taking shots at one of the best limiters of home runs in baseball, in my opinion, then Lucan Baker should be on that list. Nootbaar lefty, not ideal at 45-34 to start the lineup. I don't love that spot. 2 home runs, 2 steals. He is good, and he started off the season strongly, but it's not the most appealing Lars Nootbaar day. Wilson Contreras, absolute priority if you're going to this team, but now you're dealing with the fact that he's a first baseman, and so is Lucan Baker, so you got positional conflict there. It's not ideal that he's not a catcher anymore. Still has catcher eligibility. That doesn't matter at all on FanDuel. He's very cheap at 26. Pretty cheap for his bat at 42 on DraftKings. Hasn't done much this year, but we know that that is a very high-end bat. It was a higher-end bat when he was a catcher, though. We have to be honest about that, right? Moving him to first base diminishes the quality across the full slate of how that bat plays. 2 years ago, 20 home runs, 264, 358, 467 with a 203 ISO. Last year in 358 plate appearances, 15 home runs, a 206 ISO, created runs 40% better than average. He's an elite catcher. It's a middle-of-the-road first baseman. Brendan Donovan, just a mix-and-match guy. He's better where you get 3 positions on FanDuel. 350, 385, 517. He does hit the ball fairly hard. 9.8% barrels and 49% hard hits so far this year. Last year was a little bit of a dip in that department. We were kind of chasing him as a util guy coming out of 23 with a 40+% hard hit rate and some okay numbers. He's fine. If you're playing cards for reasons, he's all right. Lefty, not going to favor him either, though. Walker's interesting. Swings the bat aggressively. 275, 351, 392 to start. Just a 299 xWOBA needs to come up. 2 homers, 2 steals. 118, very much a work in progress, but playable here if you're going to this team. Nolan Gorman, I would shy away from in this spot. Lefty is not going to help him. He's just a home run hitter. Way too many strikeouts. I don't like that spot at all for Nolan Gorman. Until we get to the bullpen, maybe. Pedro Paez, Victor Scott, down lineup. Mix and match quality catcher who can put decent bat on ball, and then a guy who's just here for speed. So if you're looking to scratch out a couple base hits, maybe a ground ball to the third baseman, Victor Scott beats it out. Something like that is in the cards for Victor Scott against Frommer, but getting major upside is not. So very much the play over here. So far this season for Frommer, 29.6% Ks, a 2.50 ERA with a 3.04 xFIP underneath it, 0.094 on the whip. He's inducing swinging strikes like he does. He's given up a little bit in terms of the hard hit and the exit velo, which right now you don't love because the barrels have been there. A little bit of elevation. He's on a 5.8 degree average launch. So typically we don't sweat it. The 0.4 degree average launch last year, we don't care about the hard hits and the exit velo. Just a couple of mistakes are in the numbers right now. That will all even out, and he's going to look a whole lot like this when it's all said and done. One of the top lefties in the game, excellent at limiting power, does have good strikeout stuff. Not great for strikeouts, 24.8% 2 years ago, 24% last year, but very, very good. Well worth the 10-7 on FanDuel. Also pitches very deep into games, so you've got an excellent shot at your quality start bonus on the FanDuel slate. And on DraftKings at 88, he is just too cheap. Didn't talk through the Astros lineup. Let me do that. Jose Altuve off the top. So again, if we're rostering hitters from this game, the Astros are the more appealing side. I do think they're probably worth a few contrarian shares too. If you're building a bunch of lineups, even in like a 25, especially if you're doing like a 3-man with Altuve, Alvarez, and Christian Walker, I think that's worth rolling a few dice. We're talking about 3 lineups out of a 25-man, maybe a few more than that in a full 150. Maybe it's 2, not 3. Altuve's off to a good start. 302, 338, 444. Just a 248 xWOBA. Something to watch there. But 3 home runs, 3 steals. It's kind of a guy who will defy that number, I think, in the long term. 124 WRC plus. Just keep doing what he's doing, and he'll be perfectly fine. 51-36 is appropriate. 37-3,000 for Isaac Paredes, who now has 3 home runs on the board. 338 xWOBA. Did all 3 of those come over the weekend while they were at home? He didn't have any when we talked about him at the start of that homestand the other day, right? Yep. Oh, wait. Those were at home. So three straight days with a home run deposited into the left field in what's it called now? Daikin Park, whatever the hell, former Minute Maid. That's going to be the play with these Paredes. Let's see how St. Louis plays for him. We're going to play this game. It's the on-off game with these Paredes all year long. Because as we've highlighted, he doesn't actually hit the ball hard. He isn't actually that good. He isn't actually that good of a home run hitter. He's just capable of gaining just enough launch on the pull side that he can dunk the ball into left field seats. St. Louis would have been the worst park in baseball for him last year. No, sorry, second worst. He would have hit 26 per StatCast in Houston, which was the best park, which is why they acquired him. He was in Tampa Bay. He did hit 21. In this park, we're looking at 13. There's a couple that are tied in that range, 13, 14. And then all the way down, he would have had 6 if he was an Oriole. Yikes. Oh, sorry, it was 19 in reality. The expected number was 21 in Tampa. So he actually underperformed the expected. So not the day for Isaac Paredes. I would not completely scratch him off if you're building an abundance of Astros stacks to attack Sonny Gray for some reason. Then, of course, you want to include him. He's cheap in the 2 spot in the lineup, and he can get involved. 276, 382, 448. He's got a 338 xWOBA, so he's not only capable of dunking the ball into the seats, but when we're talking about the big fantasy scores. Otherwise, you need him as just a bolt-on part who needs help. Jordan Alvarez, one of the best pure hitters in baseball, full stop. 1 home run, 1 stolen base, a 375 xWOBA is all we care about. 15% barrels, 45% hard hits. He'll be perfectly fine. You just keep playing him. Christian Walker at just 43, just 2,900. I do not care about 164, 281, 236 over the first 64 plate appearances as an Astro. I much more care about the 11.4% barrels, 51.4% hard hits in a small sample. I don't really care that strikeouts are up. The walks are where they're supposed to be. The strikeouts come back down. They did go up year over year, 19 to 24%, but I don't think we're going from 24 to 31 in the long term. I think we might settle back into like the 23 to 25 range. I don't know that we're getting back down to 19 when he was truly elite, but he's way better than this. He's way better than that price. He's way better than that price. 327 xWOBA backs that up a little bit. Last year, 26 home runs at 217 ISO, created runs 19% better than average. The year before, 33 homers, 11 steals, a 239 ISO, created runs 20% better than average. You're talking about one of the better right-handed hitting first basemen in all of baseball. 4,300, 2,900 is a broken price. It's a bad matchup, but he's a priority if you play the Astros against Sonny Gray. I think on DraftKings, if you're playing the Astros, Jainer Diaz is also an absolute must. 3,400 is way too cheap for that hitter. 1 home run, 119, 178, 214. We also even only have him at a 279 xWOBA. He's been bad to start the season. It's been a problem where I encouraged us to draft him in the shared season-long team with Lou and Mike Brown. But I told him, don't worry about 45 plate appearances. Talk to me at the end of the season. Last year, over 619, 299, 325, 441. Created run 17% better than average. Hit 16 homers, but that was a downturn from the 23 homers that he hit in 377, while slashing 282, 308, 538 the year before that, 256 ISO that season. Kid is a elite hit tool, not just for a catcher, just elite hit tool, period. Also has power. He's barreled the ball 12.5% of the time to start this season. That's the one encouraging thing about his start to the year. Typically very low strikeout, very low walk rate, so we're getting a ton of high-quality contact. Until further notice, he remains a priority, especially as the price goes down, especially as a catcher on DK. FanDuel, perfectly playable at first base. Jeremy Pena's a mix and match shortstop. Can't tell me otherwise. Cam Smith, 24-26, 1 home run on the board, has kind of underperformed expectations breaking camp. Mauricio Dubon is very cheap. You get a little bit of mix and match quality from him from time to time. 4 home runs, 3 steals. Actually, we didn't really last year. Did slash 269, 296 for the batting average chasers, I guess. 278, 309, 411 was a little bit better for fantasy production with 10 homers, 7 steals that season. He's mostly just cheap and positionally flexible. And then Chas McCormick back in the lineup. 16 plate appearances of nothing so far this year. Last year was lost. The year before, he had a mini breakout after spending a couple seasons as a really interesting bottom of the lineup hitter that nobody plays, who hit the ball hard and came away with some home runs. He saw 457 plate appearances in 23, hit 22 homers, stole 19 bases, had a 216 ISO, 133 WRC plus, was going to kind of get more full-time plate appearances in 24, and he was hurt. It all fell apart. Terrible 267 plate appearances, a 66 WRC plus, a .095 ISO. Very much remains to be seen what he's going to be going forward. But if we get anything like the guy he used to be in terms of the contact for 26, 25, that's worth throwing a few darts at if you're playing the Astros today. But pitching is the priority. Framber Valdez, Sonny Gray, Astros bats, really, for me, wouldn't play the cards against Framber. That's a good note, Monty. So Monty calling out, along with Cam Smith, Paredes works the count, extends plate appearances. Astros love guys that foul off pitches, as do a lot of sharp teams. That's been a Yankee thing for years and years. Just, extend the pitches, make the pitchers work, get into the bullpen as soon as you can. And especially when you think about baseball from like a series point of view, right? If you start a series and you're getting into the bullpen early in the first game, by the time that third, fourth game rolls around, you're going to be dealing with like the back of the bullpen. So you get major upside. Also works that way in playoff series over the years. But that's interesting. I didn't realize Cam Smith was doing that. So yeah, maybe something to like there, hiding amongst the slow start. Not completely dead in the actual, but he has created runs technically 1% better than average so far. Again, there's over 39 plate appearances. There's nothing actually here. Right, we need another couple hundred plate appearances before we really know anything. So that's why I say good note, and that's why I stopped to talk about it, because that's an encouraging thing, just having that skill set, as Monty's mentioning. So appreciate that. Always call those things out, guys. This is a conversation. This is not a lecture. This is not me. The show will be better, I promise, the more you guys talk about it, especially if I'm paying attention to chat that day. Bad at that part. Jameson Taillon is a big no for me. 6.06 ERA. The 4.03 xFIP is probably the more realistic number. That's kind of who Jameson Taillon is. 3.27 ERA last year, but a 4.15 xFIP. Again, the 4 is the real number. 4.49, 4.84. This is his most honest season. 21.4% Ks of 154 and a third over 29 starts. 4+% home run rate. He was all right this season in terms of limiting the home runs down at 3, but that's not nothing. Just 85 by Stuff Plus, so we don't really like the nature of the arsenal, the physics of the pitches as they leave his hand. 18.5% strikeouts. What he does is not walk too many guys, not pitch his way into too much trouble unless he's getting BABIP'd to death with all the contact that he allows. But there's always going to be home runs on the board. This is not a plus pitcher. The 13.5% swinging strikes and 31.7% CSW so far this season, I promise, is a small sample illusion. 67-82 against a low strikeout, high contact, medium power, kind of interesting Padres team. I'm just much more on the Padres bat side of that equation. Dylan Cease, on the other hand, fire away, especially at 84 on FanDuel. This is discounted like the pitchers in the last game were discounted on DraftKings. This is a really premium spot for an excellent pitcher. I don't care about a 7.98 ERA over 3 starts. The xFIP is right where it ought to be. 3.33. Perfect. No issues. 157 whip. He's allowed too many base runners. Sure. He's always going to walk some guys. 8.5% walk rate last year, but a 107 whip. The whip uptick has come via BABIP. 10% walk rate 2 years ago, a 1.42 whip. That was problematic that season. 4.58 ERA with a 4.08 xFIP. Struck out 27.3%, but was allowing way too many base runners that year. Mostly, a lot via the walk. But there's some hits here. 27.3% Ks over 14 2/3. I will take the over in a lot of spots. That was 4 strikeouts in his most recent performance. That was the meltdown that I mentioned at the beginning of the show against the Athletics. He went just 4 innings. He allowed 9 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. It was a total disaster. In his second start of the season, 6 1/3 against Cleveland, he allowed 1 earned run on 4 hits. He struck out 7. He walked 1. Also 7 Ks in the first game, 3 earned runs. Went just 4 1/3 against Atlanta in that one, just getting stretched out. Allowed a homer in that game. But I love the upside for Dylan Cease on any given slate. And when we get him 8,400 on the single starter site, I think he's an absolute priority. The downside is that the Cubs are good. We've seen the Cubbies explode for some big run totals already. They've got a superstar in Kyle Tucker. They've got a lot of very talented bats. They have not confirmed their lineup yet. So it's not a safe spot for Dylan Cease. I don't think it's going to go completely wonky like it did against the Athletics, but he is under threat for giving up a handful of runs here. This is a team that can absolutely draw their walks against them, which is something to watch. So you are, in a way, playing with fire, most particularly around those walks and the low strikeout nature of an Ian Happ, a Kyle Tucker up at the top of the lineup. Last season, Happ did strike out at 25.6, but he drew 12.2% walks. The year before, that was 22-1 and 14-3. Tucker's always been elite at limiting strikeouts while also drawing double-digit walks, aggressively high in his medium sample at 16.5 last year. Similar this year at 17.4 so far, 10.5% strikeouts. Kyle Tucker is absolute superstar. 6,300, 4,500, totally appropriate. To start his season, he's got a 4.63 xWOBA with a 324 ISO. His creator runs 103% better than the average hitter. 5 home runs, 3 steals. Nothing not to like about Kyle Tucker. Again, going up against a righty who difficult on walks. Kyle Tucker might just walk 3 times and be interesting today. But we obviously want that big knock. Justin Turner is at least going to limit strikeouts and draw his walks. So that's another kind of problematic spot. You get a little bit of, not safety necessarily, but a little bit less of a threat in terms of what the quality of contact is going to look like at a Turner these days, what the bat really looks like. More a slap hitter at this point. 326 xWOBA is perfectly fine, defies the 208, 333, 208. No, 0 ISO, no extra base hit so far. Very limited for premium contact. Michael Busch has made good contact, 12.8% barrels, 48.7% hard hits, 3 home runs on the board, a solid 395 xWOBA. His created runs 80% better than average, second only to Kyle Tucker in this lineup. The Michael Busch breakout season might be underway over 61 plate appearances, and we just don't know it yet. But that's some good early indicators there. The premium contact has always been there, and it's exaggerated so far this year. Strikeouts are down a little bit. Walks are too, but there may be some signs of a big year to come from Mikey Busch. Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, Pete Crow Armstrong, playable pieces. Dansby is the guy I like the best there. 4,300 at short is not bad. 3,200 at short is fine. 188, 254, 06 to start the season. We will completely ignore that in favor of the 380 xWOBA, the 217 ISO, the 4 home runs, the Dansby Swanson-esque premium contact numbers at 9.1% barrels and 52.7% hard hits. Dansby has been a very, very good power hitting shortstop over multiple seasons. Kind of gets underrated for it, and then dipped last year kind of concerningly. 2 years ago, 22 home runs in 638 plate appearances, created runs 4% better than average. The year before that, 25 in 696, dipped to just 16 in 593 last year. The ISO fell down to 148. But if he's reclaimed any of that, and it sure looks to me like he has, I'm very interested at these prices of 43.32. This is all in the, if you're choosing to stack Cubs against Dylan Cease sense, of course. But in terms of grabbing premium teams, or grabbing good teams that are going to be under-owned because they're facing a good pitcher, like I was saying against Tarek Skubal, where I was saying that's not the spot to do it. When you have one of these elite pitchers and elite strikeout guys that does have some noteworthy problems, like Dylan Cease with his walks, then that probably to me becomes the more targetable spot. And when those align with the attributes that the opposing lineup has, like the low strikeout rate, the ability to exploit walks that basically the entire Cubs lineup has, that's where you get to the appealing contrarian stacks. So I do think, despite the 349 total, that the already interesting Cubbies are at least on the board for contrarian shares here. And you've got excellent bats to do it with. I would prioritize Happ and Tucker off the top. Bush, Swanson, that's a 4-man. You can easily drop Justin Turner into that for cheap at third base if you wanted to. Nico at 45-31, not completely ideal, but at least he gets on base. He'll steal you bases, so he can give you a little bit of bonus scoring there, but definitely needs some help. Pete Crow Armstrong hasn't been much with the bat, but we've seen a little bit of an uptick over the last couple of games. 77 plate appearances. He does have 2 homers. He's got 6 stolen bases, just a 282 xWOBA, about a 171 ISO. Needs to develop that bat in a hurry, but 38.27 is very cheap. Matt Shaw is the guy I'm more interested in from the bottom of the lineup at 38 at third base, rather than Justin Turner. You're paying more for him, but I think maybe he's a more interesting DFS bat. Remains to be seen. We haven't gotten much out of him over 65 plate appearances, but has that pedigree. And then Miguel Amaya is just a cheap catcher option to bolt on. He is at 263, 275, 447, solid little 335 xWOBA. Home run on the board, creator runs 2% better than average in the small sample so far. But 1, 2, 4, 5, and then build around that. It's easy to do to bolt on any fifth piece there. On FanDuel, I think that's just your 4-man, and it's kind of straightforward. Not expensive. That's a base of just $49.50. So you're getting Kyle Tucker for under $5,000 if you 4-man that, and then bolt anybody else onto it. As a 4-man on FanDuel, that becomes $3,400 a piece, which is just okay, but at least you're getting Kyle Tucker for cheap. And I don't mind 34 for Happ, Swanson, and Michael Bush. I think it's okay. So Cubby's kind of the oddball contrarian stack of the day, I think. Just coming up with that as I'm talking it through, not something I planned on saying. Man, Larry, I read the back of that comment. I read Colorado is, and I was like, oh man, is Larry touting Colorado in this spot? I hope not. That would have surprised me. Larry knows what he's talking about. I would have been shocked, but I read the wrong word in that comment first, just as my eyes landed in that spot on chat. Tango Hotel, there's always things to watch. Right. What's encouraging about Cease is that a lot of things with Cease can be attributed to happenstance via the walks. The stuff is always elite, 20 points above average by Stuff Plus. So far this year in his 3 outings, it's dipped to just 107, but that's still way above average. He's always going to induce his swinging strikes. So I think concern is or care about. Not really. Maybe something to watch. What were the numbers second half last year? Let's see. $24. So our strikeouts came down. Our walks went up. 31.9% strikeout rate over the first half, dipped to a 25.4. The walks went from 7 and change to 9.8. The xFIP climbed, but was still sub 4, which is all we really care about there. 326 went up to 370. If you look at the actual FIP, it actually went down. 326 to 284. Whip was fine, 108 first half, 105 second half. Held hitters to a lower batting average in the second half. Just lost some strikeout and pushed some walk up the board. You could say fatigue, late in the season could have caused some of that. I don't really have a great answer for you, as you could probably tell. I'm going to say no concern. Maybe something we look back at if he's only striking out like 25% a month from now. Right? If we're talking in late May, and he's at even 27%, maybe we go back and look at that a little bit more, especially if the walks remain high. But we're still right around Dylan Cease, even in that second half last year. So not a concern. Yeah, it's when you asked the question, there were definitely some bumpy starts. I remember that as well. It's just in the long term, some of the numbers were up, some of the numbers were down as I actually looked through the second half there. But I definitely remember some issues. Yeah, a couple of 4-run games, a couple of 5-run games, a lot of hits down the stretch. Depending on where we're defining the second half, 7-run game and a 6-run game late June and early July, but that's not quite there. And the most noteworthy thing, I think, from what you called out, though, was the dip in Ks and the uptick in walks. Down the stretch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in 5 of his last 6 starts last year, he struck out 4 hitters 4 times and 5 hitters in that 5th game, which was actually a pretty good start. And then he only had 1 good strikeout game. It was a 10 strikeout outing against the Giants at San Francisco over 6 innings. Was he lead in that one? The 5 strikeout game in that 4 of 5 was 8 1/3 2-hitter against Houston. Struck out 5. So that was obviously a very good start, but some problematic starts with just, 4 strikeouts in a handful of those with 3 and 4 earned runs allowed. And also walked 3, 4 hitters in each of those games. So those were, to your point, problematic DFS starts. Aviator, yeah, I hate to break it to you, buddy, but I think so. Late to the show today, is it going to be one of those slates I hate where the Dodgers as chalk go off? Yeah, probably. Dodgers looking pretty dominant at the top of the board here. Running this one off, though, before we get to that. The Padres lineup, somebody asked about Tatis earlier. Love the option. 18.4% barrels and 53.1% hard hits, a 13 plus in the home run model. 4 homers on the board, 6 stolen bases. I've been talking about the steals all year long. The fact that he's running and was determined to run this season was very encouraging, and he's been doing it. 351, 415, 579, a 228 ISO, a 485 xWOBA, creating runs 84% better than average. Looking every bit the superstar that he is. Luis Arias continuing to hit second behind him. Let's see if that's the case. No confirmed lineup. 3,600, 2,700, you're just buying the hit tool. 258, 286, 333 to start the season, but we know the average will come around. We know that the dink and dunk approach will come around and have him floating above a 300 average for most of the season. Just weirdly cast as a 2-hitter, in my opinion. Manny Machado, the only other player in this lineup above a 10, and one of 2 guys really above halfway to a 10. Gavin Sheets at 5.71 is technically above half, and he's cheap. But the true power spots are Tatis and Machado. This is kind of like the Blue Jays, a top-heavy lineup. You do get quality out of Arias in terms of that hit tool. You get a little bit of sneaky pop from Gavin Sheets from the left side for very cheap, and you get a very high-quality Xander Bogaerts in there. The rest of this lineup does leave a lot to be desired. They're just cheap. They're low strikeout. They're fairly high quality, or they're fairly high frequency of contact, but they're not really high quality of contact down lineup. But 1 through 5, very playable, very stackable against Jameson Taillon, and I would say at least 1 and 3. And I would probably go 1, 3, 5, Tatis, Machado, and Bogaerts if I'm 3-manning this. But you could cheapen that up and just use Sheets in that same equation, probably skip Bogey. Sheets has a pair of home runs, 211 ISO at 346 xWOBA, 151 WRC+. Bogey is starting the season over 65 plate appearances at 304, 385, 393 with a 335 xWOBA. He's created runs 22% better than average. 4 stolen bases on the year. Hasn't returned much power so far. No home runs on the board. The ISO at just .089 is not overly encouraging, but a 45.5% hard hit rate, 335 xWOBA. Maybe we're just dealing with more doubles, and that's perfectly fine from this hitter. Low strikeout, high frequency of walks. He's very not appealing, but he's very playable at 45 at shortstop. At 3,000 at second base on FanDuel, if you're going to the Padres, that's appealing. That's interesting. I think it's more a 4-man on FanDuel and probably a 3-man on DraftKings if you're going pods. You can easily go on FanDuel, Tatis, Machado, Sheets, and Bogey. They're very cheap. You got some positional flex there. You can work out eyes into that, but to me, he's by far the least appealing of those options. And then down lineup, Jose Iglesias is just kind of a contact hitter, 292, 370, 375, 250 XWO, but kind of tells you the story there. Needs some help from his friends to score runs. Jason Hayward, we'll see what we get in the long term, but it's just a lefty. You know, every now and again, you can work him into a stack for cheap. The quality of contact has been down so far this season, 41.3% hard hits last year for cheap. Basically, any time he was in the lineup was all right, but not much appeal. 5.25 in the home run model. Tyler Wade is at best a mix and match infielder, and probably not that if he's in the lineup at all. He is very, very cheap. Last year, over 156, 217, 285, 239, a 56 WRC plus, has never been much of anything at the major league level. Martin Maldonado hits you the occasional home run. He's got one on the board over 24 plate appearances, 2,800, 2,100. You just work him into a stack here or there if you're stacking up a bunch of Padres, but he's in no way a priority. Dylan Cease. Yeah, Dylan Cease. Padres bats. Cubs bats as a contrarian play. For me, no Jamison Tyon. Javier says, as a Cubs fan, I like the Padres against Tyon. I agree, buddy. I do agree. It's just, it's just what I talked about, the fact that it's kind of a condensed short DFS lineup. But we'll also see what's in there. Taking Jackson Merrill out of that lineup, though, does immediately shorten that, which is kind of an obvious statement. And so Antonio Sensatella is a gigantic no. I don't think I need to really sell anybody on that concept. 8.8% strikeouts so far this year. Way to go, buddy. 5.14 ERA, a slightly better 4.42 xFIP underneath it. But this is just a guy who's going to be out there throwing batting practice, basically. Second start of the season against Milwaukee, went 4 1/3. Faced 22 hitters, allowed 8 of them to get a hit, allowed 9 of them to score a run. Only 8 of those runs were earned. Some of them came via the 2 home runs he allowed. He struck out 3, he walked 1, and that was against the Brewers. I would very much expect a start like that. Against the Phillies at Philadelphia in his second start of the year, he did go 5 1/3, faced 25 hitters. He did not give up an earned run. He gave up 1 run, struck out just 3, walked 0, but gave up 10 hits. So that's a start over which he had a 0 ERA, but a 3.22 xFIP. That's not a tragic xFIP number by any means. And to make it fair, in the 4 1/3 meltdown against the Brewers, he had a 16.62 ERA in that game, but a 3.96 xFIP. Not a good pitcher, not remotely playable at 5,500. He's lower projected than every hitter in their lineup except for Jacob Stallings to ram that point home on DK. Dustin May is very playable. 9,300, major strikeout upside. 8,700 looks great on the FanDuel slate. Ignore the 16.3% so far, the 7.7% swinging strike rate. His stuff is much, much better than that. In his first game against Atlanta, he did strike out 6 over 5 innings, faced 18 hitters. Second start stretched out a little bit more. That was against the Nationals. Gave up 1 earned run, 3 runs total on just 3 hits. He only struck out 1 in that game. It was a little bit of an oddball from that perspective. He walked 3 in both games, but the fact that he was stretched out to 6 innings, that he faced 25 hitters in that one is the most encouraging thing we could see. It's a pitcher we just haven't had for the last couple of seasons. So love the upside. He has absolutely electric stuff. The horizontal movement is ridiculous on his pitches. We just, again, nothing last year, 48 innings and 9 starts 2 years ago, just 18.2% Ks. It didn't really translate in that sample either, but I promise there's really good stuff here. Stuff Plus hasn't actually liked it over the first 2 starts either. Damn, everything in the numbers is working against me here. Let's say it this way. You don't need to be that good to beat this Colorado team. I promise Dustin May's better than these numbers look so far. 93 is an okay price. 87 is a dynamite price. These Rockies are striking out. This projected version of the lineup, 31% strikeouts so far. If you want to take a larger sample for these hitters, the top 8 guys there, 26.8% strikeouts last year. There's a little bit of lurking power here around guys like Michael Talia, a little bit for Ryan McMahon, a little bit for Ezekiel Tovar at the top of the lineup. but a very underexperienced lineup, a lineup with guys like Mickey Moniak who are multiple years past their due date. I do think Moniak's interesting in the long term, playing half his games in Colorado, but in this spot, really don't see it. Vegas doesn't see it either. The Rockies are at a 3 implied total for a reason. So definitely interested in some Dustin May shares. Even if it goes bust, I still think it's the correct play to make. And even if he's honestly just the 18 to 20% strikeout version, even if he is actually that guy, I still think it's okay, especially at the FanDuel price. If you wanted to get completely wacky, maybe a few shares of Rockies. It's probably 150 lineup play. If I'm building 25 for the 25 max, the 20 max, if I'm building 25 for the 20 max, that's great. But if I'm playing one of those type of tournaments, maybe they creep into 1 or 2 as the secondary stack, probably for a 3-man around like McMahon, Talia, Moniak for cheap, something like that. Grab a few of those lefties, hope for the upside. Not a one of those guys has been good this year. This projected version of the lineup has 3 home runs all season, or as many as Mookie Betts has. That's kind of insane. The Dodgers projected lineup has 4 hitters in it with at least as many home runs as the entire projected Rockies lineup. Man, this team's bad. Talia's an interesting hitter. Lots of power upside. Chris Bryant remains dead. Ryan McMahon is at least a moderately interesting cheap third base option from the left side who does have true 20 home run type power. Kyle Farmer is a mixer at 23. If you're bound and determined to build a bunch of Rocky stacks and stretch this out to 5 guys, can play from the 3 spot or could play as a wraparound from like the 8 and 9. Kind of interesting down there. He's just very cheap. He does have like mid-teens type pop from time to time, or like 12, on the lower side of that, like 12, 15, and a little bit of speed. So far this year, 349, 396, 488, 308 xwOBA is the real and more accurate number. 137 WRC plus, hasn't hit it for any power in his 48 plate appearances. Doesn't cost you anything. So if you're gonna stretch the Rockies out, he's probably an interesting guy to do that with. Tovar is also on that list. Way too much with a pitcher who's going to be running the ball away from his bat the entire game. I expect Tovar is going to strike out 3 times here. But there is at least a little bit of premium pop from the shortstop position for cheap. He hit 26 home runs last year, which isn't nothing. He had a 200 ISO, just way too many whiffs. Down lineup, again, Moniak for 2,200, former first overall pick, is at least a little bit interesting. 14 home runs in 418 plate appearances that were otherwise terrible last year. But the year before, in 323 opportunities, 280, 307, 495. A 215 ISO creator runs 14% better than average and hit 14 home runs. That's not a nothing player. It's just we're probably only really considering him when he's facing a bad pitcher or at Coors Field. Zach Veen, the call-up outfielder, dead min priced on the DraftKings slate. If you're playing Rockies again, that's at least interesting as an apple box. And if you need a just flat min-priced outfielder, honestly, there's only so many guys at that price on this slate. Veen does have some talent. He's got a little bit of speed, a little bit of pop, but has not shown it at the major league level yet. Might just be overmatched. Stallings is a whatever mix-and-match type catcher. There's not much to say there. And then the Dodgers with a 5.6 implied total. That's one of the higher marks we've seen throughout the season because they're facing Antonio Senzatella in a home game. Monster power showing. Ohtani at 17.77 would have been easy to make him the home run pick of the day, but I don't do things like that because I want to give a little bit of value. So I went down to the bottom of the lineup and I made original Max Muncy the home run pick of the day. 8.87 from Max in the home run model. He is yet to hit one this year. He's scuffling at 176, 232, 255, which is not great. The xwOBA is just at 286. All of that defies what I know about Max Muncy is that he is a 3 true outcomes hitter and one of the elite versions of that in the sport. 26.3% Ks, but 15.4% walks last year, 26.4, 14.7 the year before that. With elite premium contact numbers, barrels, hard hits are all there. So far this season, the barrel rate's right where it was last year in the moderate sample. 50% hard hits in over 56 plate appearances. So he's making the contact we expect. Last year it was just 293 plate appearances, but he mashed 15 home runs, had a 262 ISO, creator runs 35% better than average. Year before, 36 homers, a 263 ISO. You don't care about the 212. People get hung up on batting average. Don't. 333 on base, dynamite run creator, masher of baseballs from the left side going up against a terrible batting practice righty. Max Muncy, home run. Put it on the board. Mookie Betts at 62.41 with 3 positions on FanDuel. Dynamite. You guys know who Mookie Betts is. 288, 383, 481 with a 309 XWOBA, but that's a little bit of an outlier there. 192 ISO is about right. 150 WRC plus. The XWOB is just a little bit funky right now at that number, which is slightly below average, but he'll cruise through the season. It's Mookie Betts. Don't overthink it. Freddie Freeman at 49.37. Still a little bit cheap on DK. He's only at 211, 250, 579 over just 20 plate appearances because he missed a little bit of time. 447 XWOB is the thing to focus on there. 12.5% barrels, 56.3% hard hits in the tiny sample. Freddie will be fine. 2 home runs on the board, 132 WRC plus. Another spot. Don't overthink it. If you can afford it, just get to the Dodgers. Teoscar Hernandez, 5,039, 11.13 in the home run model. He's put 5 on the board already this season, a 348 XWOBA, doing all sorts of Teoscar things. 9.6% barrels. He's actually only at a 30.8% hard hit rate. So he's kind of underperformed his talent in that department so far. He's cut strikeouts significantly. He's cut walks in half as well. There's been a lot of contact, and it's actually lighter than what it's been, despite the 5 home runs, despite the 281 ISO. So maybe more upside to give for Teoscar. Tommy Edman now has 6 home runs on the board, and I still don't really understand where it's coming from. 12.5, I mean, it's coming from right here, but I don't understand that uptick unless he's just a completely different guy year over year. 12.5% barrels, 51.8% hard hits, 6 homers, a 313 ISO, 425 XWOBA. He was always a good, interesting player as a multi-position, cheap guy from the top or the bottom of a lineup, but he was a bolt-on part. He was a low teens home run type hitter. This is a major uptick, and it goes back to last year when he came to the Dodgers. It's, I think, 12 home runs in Dodger Blue now in a limited number of plate appearances. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. He's still cheap at 46 on DK at second base. I think he's a very playable second baseman. He helps get this lineup a little slight tick cheaper. That's a very high-end 5-man, though. 5,400. You can't really do that. So we're probably looking at we definitely want Muncy. You can probably take Pius. You're probably choosing one of Ohtani or Betts in most of those lineups. For argument's sake, with this one, let's go Betts and Freddie, and then we'll go to Edman. We'll skip Teoscar. Now we've got that down to 4,500 apiece. And I'll remind you that stack includes Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Max Muncy. And then you're getting a scorching hot, whatever that means, Tommy Edman, and Andy Pajes for a little bit of sneaky home run pop. But the very fact that you can average those prices down to just 4,500 by including that bottom pairing makes it playable, makes it interesting. So that's how I think you have to go about the Dodgers today, given where those prices are. But this is a 9-man lineup with really interesting names to do that with. On a lot of other teams, these would be just the top 4 hitters in a lineup, and you'd be talking about, hey, that's kind of interesting 4-man from the top of the Blue Jays lineup. Will Smith at 4,500, 3,000, cheap. Playable as their first baseman on FanDuel if you wanted to instead of Freddie Freeman. He's that good. He's not Freddie Freeman, but he's playable in that role. 341, 481, 488 to start the year, 386 XWOBA, 184 WRC plus. Barrels the ball. 4,500 is very appealing at catcher over here. Conforto's lefty bat, 13% barrels in the small sample so far. He's hit a pair of home runs over 58 plate appearances. 345 XWOB is encouraging. A 204 ISO, same thing. Creating runs, doing Michael Conforto things. There are definitely Ks there, but this isn't the pitcher that's going to go find him. So another lefty bat with power. Again, you could easily, let's say you wanted a 5-man right there. Right? It's not the ideal lineup spots, but Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman, Will Smith, Michael Conforto, and Max Muncy. That's a really good 5-man lineup, 4,500 apiece. So while they're expensive, the Dodgers are playable. Super appealing. As whoever it was saying. I think it was Javier that was saying it. Super appealing, but it's going to be one of those days where the chalky Dodgers just bends the slate, breaks it in half. I really think this is going to go up. Michael Knack doesn't like Muncy. Muncy's washed. I don't think so. We'll see. I don't think we're there yet. What is he? He's like 36 now? 34? 34 and a half. I'm putting the home run on the board. This entire lineup has good home run marks. 10.13 for the top 6 as the average. 9 and change for the full lineup as the average. Dodger Blue, I think that's the name of the game here. They're a very obvious stack at the top of the board. There are a lot of interesting ways to go about this slate, though, as we've talked through, and we've been going for quite a while, and I still got to knock out hockey projections. Fortunately, there's no basketball tonight. Tarek Skubal, top of your pitching board, 10-3, 10-5. Just pay it and be happy about it. Fromber is more expensive on FanDuel than Tarek Skubal. That's not totally nuts. Fromber is very good, but he should probably never be more expensive than Skubal. And you can see on DK, 8,800 versus the 10-5. It's a bargain for Fromber on DK. Joe Ryan, perfectly fair price on both sites. Definite upside, but also a threatening lineup on the other side. There's no way around that. The Mets are going to be a good lineup this year. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of on-base skills. So a danger spot for Joe Ryan, but very playable. You hope that the ownership gets knocked down. 84 for Cease on FanDuel. Cheap. 9,800 worthwhile, but another spot, kind of high danger given exactly what we talked about with the Cubs' ability to exploit the things that are problematic with Dylan Cease, namely the walks. So watch that spot. Cubs are on the board as a contrarian stack. Dustin May, I think he's going to be super obvious and get pretty chalky at those prices, especially the 87 on FanDuel. The spot is there. The stuff is dynamite when it's working. I expect a good start out of Dustin May. Shane Baz, kind of concerned about the weather, the conditions, that ballpark, the matchup, especially at 10-1 on FanDuel. As I said at the top of the show, though, there's no reason to think that he couldn't go out there, strike out 8-10 guys, and have the best start of the day. It's just a high price for those conditions for the lineup that he's facing on FanDuel. Totally different story at 84 on DraftKings, much more playable, might even draw some popularity. Clay Holmes, spot of the day for value on DK at 75. I love that spot. 96 on FanDuel is a totally different kind of play. The hope there is he's just not that popular against the Twins. I will definitely play that spot. Sonny Gray, very, very talented, going up against the tough Astros lineup. I would lump him into the challenged but talented like Joe Ryan, Dylan Cease, given the matchup there. Great price for him at 85 on DK, though. Tanner Houck, at least functional at those prices on either site, but you probably prefer him as an SP2 at 72 on DK. Seth Lugo could get through against the Yankees, 76. Not a bad SP2 option on the DraftKings slate. Probably not going to be crazy highly owned, given how the Yankees are stacking up a little bit. But another spot that is high danger, and he's a lower strikeout pitcher. The hope there is the Yankees are flailing a little bit and put some strikeout bonus on him. Tyone's a no for me. Grant Holmes would be the bargain bin apple box pitcher at 6,500. I'm really not seeing it, not necessarily suggesting it, but I do think that out of the guys priced in that range, he's your most appealing option. Tyler Alexander from me is a no. Carlos Carrasco is a no. Easton Lucas at those prices, I need to see more before I can spend that on him. I really do. We looked at the numbers. He's 28 something. He's not really a prospect. Maybe he found something that's going to work. We don't really know yet. Need to see more. Sensatella is probably the hardest no of the season already is Antonio Sensatella today against the Dodgers. Be hard pressed to come up with a worse spot than that. Cue the complete game shutout. With that in mind, you guys, you absolutely rock. The 46 of you that are still watching, anybody who's going to be watching this on the replay and mashing your way through 3x speed. Really appreciate all you guys. Like and subscribe if you get a chance here on YouTube. That actually does help, believe it or not. Subscriptions at the website help more. Under $1 a day, accesses baseball. You get the projection, you get the home run model number, you get my top stacked rankings, which I get in there and play with a little bit. You get my home run pick of the day. You also get NBA projections, NHL projections, all the way through the playoffs for every main slate. A lot of bang for your buck over at rotoscouts.com, guys. So check it out. But those thumbs ups, those subscriptions, most notably here on the channel, actually help. If we can get that over 1,000 subscribers, that would be beneficial to me. So tell your friends. With that in mind, gang, Max Muncy's your home run pick of the day. I like it. I really do. Watch him not play. Go get it. Good luck out there tonight, gang. Somebody go win something. Share screenshots in that Discord when you do. Discord's link somewhere in the chat there. Share those screenshots. I love to see them. It makes my night go better when my night's not going well. So just in a spirit kind of a thing. It also helps the website. So check those, send those over when you guys go win, and we'll see you tomorrow for a lot more of this. Later, gang.